Yeah, buddies, it is the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. Gail Bennington is on maternity leave, being maternal right now. As I talked about this yesterday, we're getting shots. Getting shots. Vito, first of all, I thought Debo was in the room. I got so frightened when that started. That's my bike, punk. Debo is one of the greatest fucking characters in the history of modern cinema.
Yeah.
I always just think, what if Debo was in Silence of the Lambs? I think it would have been a lot scarier. Oh, Chris, what's that? Your girlfriend wants you?
No, it's not my girlfriend.
We're going to Pittsburgh. I got 2 tickets to Pittsburgh. This is your second trip to Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, the first was for Christmas last year. This will be my second trip ever to Pittsburgh for a wedding this time. Not my own, just for a wedding of one of her friends.
If it's your own, I know, I get that you guys want to be private.
Yeah.
But we're still throwing you a party, okay? A bachelor party.
All right, cool. Batch party? I love it.
Oh, Chris is weird. I consider him our Brett Kavanaugh.
What? I haven't assaulted any women.
Who said that he did? Let's leave that up to the, I don't know what it is, courts or whatever.
Yeah, I believe it is courts. Yeah, I think they're the ones making the call on this whole thing.
Oh, my mind is going through these changes. A little later on, we're doing that SNL party that we did.
Yeah, I was up in Jamestown at the National Comedy Center. That's with Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, and Alan Zweibel. It's coming up at 3:30 p.m. today.
Journey and the good folks up there sent me and Juliet matching shirts where, see, about the Comedy Museum, but she's going to be in a onesie, and I'm in a double XL. Unfortunately, I really wanted to get the XL. And he said, I'm going to get the XL this September. And I went, but I can eat all I want.
I'm up to a medium now, and it's killing me.
You've lost so much, Chris. You've lost. I don't want to make a big thing about this. He's lost 189 pounds. And how did he do it? He only eats one thing, Philadelphia Scrapple.
It's the Scrapple diet. I'm trying to get people on it.
And you decided just a little bit of ketchup on it, nothing else.
Yeah, no other seasonings, nothing else, no salt, no pepper, just ketchup. That's my thing.
It's salt and pepper. Pepper's been what kept that weight on you? 189 pounds. And here's the problem. When he started, he was 240. So he's, I think, a little underweight right now.
I'm mostly bone and skin these days.
I don't want to see you in the 50s.
It's fine. No one skinny shame me.
Vito, you're the one who really does care about weight.
Yeah.
And yet you won't step on a scale.
No, I won't go near a scale. I'll go by pants or clothing. But I won't go near a scale because if it's not what I want to see, it'll ruin it. I'll go on a binge eat. I'll just start fucking eating.
Have you ever went higher than the scale goes? Because I could take you down to the supermarket, just have you walk on that scale that they have in the trucking department.
He has definitely been higher than the scale before.
What's the scale go through? 300?
Yeah.
Yeah, most scales go to 300.
I've been.
You are over it right now.
I've been crushing that since high school. You're fat, dude.
Look, no, but see, that's the problem. No, he's fat shaming me, all right? Okay? That's not fucking right. But he has muscle in addition to the fat. That's he weighs even more. So he's definitely.
I don't know why you just turned that into a compliment.
Yeah.
I'm thankful.
He definitely weighs more than me. He's much fatter than I am.
All right. You guys know you can't argue. You start to get sick.
I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm healthier than Vito, that's for sure.
No. Even if you were weighed less, you're not healthier than anyone. I could take you to any hospital right now, and you would win sickest. I don't know if that's winning, but still.
It's an achievement. I'll say that.
Chris Stangley, you said you had something you really wanted to talk about today, and you said you wanted to get it off your chest.
All right, so I'm in the office with Vito.
All fucked up.
Sober. I was sober at this point.
And it doesn't sound like you.
And he brings up to me, wouldn't it be great if Serena Williams and LeBron James had a kid? It'd be the perfect athlete.
Can I tell you something? This is the way fucking slave owners down in old plantations thought.
Racist.
But they're both the best athletes of their time. And if they came together with and they're naturally athletic. They're not even just
Shit.
There's only two people here that have zero racism, and that's me and Earl.
It's true.
Now, Earl.
Yeah.
Isn't this exactly the thing that black people hated because you were being breeded as fighters?
Yes.
I'm not trying to breed fighters. I'm trying to breed athletes.
Yes. You know who breeds? People who have horses. You're treating them like they're so much chattel.
You're talking about eugenics. That's some Hitler shit. That's the Nazi party.
Dude, just look at them. They're just bodies overall. Like, look at the way they build
Oh my God,
muscle.
they're also people. They're minds. They're souls.
Fuck, man. This is why I had to bring this out because fucking I felt horrible. I couldn't believe what he was saying to me. At the time, I was like, yeah, that is a good idea, Vito. Yeah. And then I just walked out.
We were building the NBA's next star.
I walked out.
I mean, look at LeBron James. LeBron James has one kid already. This kid's already going to be a star. He's in high school. He's crushing. Now add a Serena Williams into that DNA.
Now you're insulting his wife.
Imagine too, Vito, if you just had those babies that you worked the fields. Imagine the amount of work that would be done. Earl?
Yeah.
On behalf of enlightened white people everywhere, I'd like to apologize for Vito and remind you that he's Italian, which wasn't even considered white until somewhere into the late 60s.
Yeah, or also
When it went that late?
To me, it did. My neighborhood. What we called them, Earl, you wouldn't like.
Oh, I kind of got an idea.
It started with spaghetti and then went right into the normal racist insult. Thank God those days are over, Earl. Thank God we're enlightened now.
Earl, you wouldn't be entertained by looking at the offspring of a Serena Williams and a LeBron James.
They already have kids.
They have separate kids with the co-founder of Reddit.
All right, let's do this now. You take Jay-Z and Beyonce. Why can't Elijah Blue sing? No, her name isn't Elijah Blue. That was Greg Allman's kid.
That's Greg.
With Cher. And there's no fucking talent there. This would have been better if you would have tried to take two fucking white people. You take like a Baker Mayfield and just like Curtis Mayfield. You see what happens there.
Interracial.
Yeah, well, you're not going to have to change the name. You're going to have to get an egg somewhere. Just admit that you didn't understand it. You made a racist statement.
I didn't realize it was racist.
Thank you.
I just thought that these two beings,
Don't try to explain your way out of it by calling them beings.
human beings.
You just call them beaners. It's fucking
No,
terrible. It doesn't
that's
make
a
any
different
sense.
race.
Dude, you know people are going to get mad even by you saying that.
But
you don't have a right to say that.
I was calling him out for his racism.
Yeah, by using the B word.
That guy called him an honorary one the other day, and now he thinks he could just.
Let's
throw
not
it
say
around.
that guy. He's a person like anyone else. He's a citizen.
His name was
I think.
Jeff. All right.
Jeff? That doesn't really sound... I would like it in these fragile times that we live in for you guys to stay away from any race talks, sex talks,
Oh boy.
gay talk, political talk of any kind.
Okay.
Okay, I don't want to hear right, left, Republican, Democrat. I don't want to hear anything about God. Okay, I don't want any food coming up
What's wrong with food?
because it always turns into ethnics, and then you're always talking about why are they all Mexican cooks. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, Chris.
I don't want
I
to.
want this show to be safe from all the outside shit that happens out there.
Well, that's something to aim for then in this new year.
It's not the new year,
Oh.
dude. It's fucking September. Wake me up when September ends. You're so smart to put a month in your song because it will always play that month forever. Because radio is dumb. And then they make some little remark about it, you know? Like, hey, set your snooze alarm for October 1 because we're going to wake you when September ends. And then they just pop into it.
This is
And then
brilliant.
they take off their headphones and go, fucking nailed that. All right, give me the cheat sheet. Let's see what I got for the next break. I know you guys have never worked in that kind of radio.
Yeah.
The music guys in terrestrial, they subscribe to different services where they'll send you a sheet every day, and it'll be like, oh, today's Paul McCartney's birthday. Today, this is also the today, and then there'll be a couple of jokes that you can do out of the news. So those jokes will pop up all over the country by hacks.
Oh, they have like supercuts of the news, like doing that kind of thing where like you see. I didn't realize that it would literally was written like what you could.
Yes, the news gets the same things. So they get what you see in that is the newsrooms around the country no longer can afford a full staff, so they just have a writing staff for everybody in that in the country. So they go, here's the fun joke to make about the fried Snickers bar or whatever the stupid, feel good thing of the day is.
But with like the internet and like people just sharing everything, doesn't it shouldn't that be done less because then everybody's just sharing it and pointing out how bad that looks, or it just doesn't matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to anybody. You know what I mean? Like who's going to, how many, if that thing goes viral, it's going to get how many fucking things on it? There's 360 million people. Some of them catch the news here and there. I don't even think it's so funny that there's still a big battle about the evening news and who's winning it. And I don't know if anyone under 60 has ever watched the evening news. Like the national news from NBC, ABC, and CBS.
Yeah, I used to watch it as a kid because we didn't have the internet.
Who was your news guy? Because everybody always sticks to the same guy.
I think it was Dan Rather one of the...
Yes, he was.
Yeah, it was
CBS.
Dan Rather. CBS, yes. That's the one my parents would watch, yeah.
Yeah. He probably was the last really big name guy to do it.
Brian Williams, he did it too.
Brian Williams, then he told everybody that he got shot by fucking ISIS when he was on his way to a fucking...
I think it was during 9/11 he said that as well.
Yeah. He said he was up one of the towers and he looked into the face of... No, he actually said that, and he was over there, and he said that his helicopter took fire. And I remember I think he told it on Letterman, and like the whole place couldn't put, everybody was like, what? Like, oh my God, can you believe this? And the answer is no, you shouldn't have believed it.
He's a dirty liar.
Now he's stuck on fucking MSNBC like an idiot.
He really hasn't crawled out of that hole.
I don't know whether he can, well, the fact that he's working at all after a lie like that, you know what I mean? That's unbelievable to me. And now they gave him, 11:30 show. I don't see that he's learned anything.
I'm sure he's still lying. I'm sure there's plenty of lies he still throws out there. Just
even when he's not lying, he's a douchebag. You know what I mean?
Smarmy.
He tries to be fucking poetic with everything. Just get back into the helicopter. I'll shoot at you, and then you'll have a true story to tell.
Yeah, you should go back there and just be like, now, that's the way.
Just fucking do it. I'll prove that I can do it. Now Bennington's going to play the part of ISIS because he knows I'm not a good shot. He knows this, Earl. Earl, who was your news guy when you were growing up?
Peter Jennings.
The great Peter Jennings. Now, the guy who is there now, I think his name is David Muir or something like that. Have you guys ever seen him?
My parents still watch the evening news.
Well, he kind of looks a little bit like Peter Jennings. He looks like a male model. And I don't know if he's ever done, what kind of reporting that he's done, but the pictures of him at bus stops are male model pictures. And he dresses like madmen, like, he'll be wearing a thing. And you can just see him posing with accessories.
You got to look a little off, I think. Or just not be that
You gotta
hot.
look like you're smart. You can't look like you're a male model and have anybody go, oh, we're going to get the news from this dude. But he beat Lester Holt in total viewers, but not in the coveted 25 to 54s that Earl built his reputation on. Any show that Earl produced back in terrestrial days, he'd go like this. We're aiming at 25 to 54-year-old males. Do not speak outside of that at all. I don't want to hear about sneakers. I don't want to hear. Just nail the 25 to 50-year-old men, because that's who we're sending beer to, folks.
Always 25, 54 men.
Men always had to be men.
Always men.
Who gives a fuck if a woman's listening? And don't give out any prizes outside of the demo. If you fucking gave out a prize and it was somebody like from some county in North Jersey that doesn't count, everybody'd be pissed at you. Why would you fucking give Stones tickets? Actually, you guys even worked more suburbs than you did the city, right?
Yeah.
Long Island and North Jersey?
Yeah, we had a satellite station east of Long Island, and then our target was like Bergen County, and
Yeah.
the city was great, but
City's great, but it's a little too urban for those advertisers. A little too urbane. Urban is the racist, non-racist term that you could use.
I figured that out.
The term I always hated was urban contemporary. I'm like,
What I'm going to give you one that's going to make you cringe. Churban. That was urban CHR. So it'd be like pop hits, but a lot of black people in there too. So let's put in a couple of nice hip hop songs.
I'm actually doubled over for that.
I know. It's fucking terrible.
Oh, what an awful word.
Yeah, it is. It's so cynical. It's so deadly cynical.
No, like urban contemporary was just like, we're going to take all the black out of it.
Yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? It's like, everyone in the city is urban.
Right. But we're going to try to make the white people feel a little urban. That's what they're trying to say. It's basically aimed at wannabes. All this is over your heads, huh, kids?
The term inner city youth would confuse me as a kid because I thought I lived in the inner city and it didn't seem like a bad thing.
You know who still says inner city? Only one person. Our president. He'll still say the inner cities are a disaster. I'm like, look at them. There's fucking Forever 21 stores in the. No one. I dare you to drive down 125th Street and not go like this. I could shop here. Very comfortable for me.
Yeah, like Harlem is so white friendly now. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I was walking around 116th and 3rd at like 2 a.m. and I felt completely safe.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I remember my
96th Street, was that the cutoff?
96 on the west side. On the west side, it was 96th, and it was 96 overall for years. And then eventually, the west side turned into like 120th, but the east side stayed at 96.
Yeah.
And then it just now the east side is catching up. Like my black friends told me growing up, they didn't go to East Harlem. They said, I don't go to Spanish Harlem. It's a whole different kind of Harlem.
Course. Everybody stayed pretty much their neighborhoods. Yeah. They were respectful of neighborhoods back then. Because you could just be somebody that was out of your neighborhood and it was fucking. But this is the history of New York. So I had an old guy that was on my block, right, that I would sit out front, smoke, and talk to. And he lived in that area forever. And he said, this used to be the German block. Now, sometimes the Irish block would come over from 65th and start shit. Like literally block by block, white people had divided themselves.
My dad would tell me old stories about Astoria because he grew up there. That was split up into like 3 parts. It was the Greek part, the Irish part, and the Italian part. And they all fought each other all the time. I guess this would have been like in the 60s and early 70s. And it was just a ridiculous fight every fucking week.
The Upper West Side was all Italian, and then Hell's Kitchen was like Irish and like Westies.
You mean Midtown?
Midtown.
Because that's what they call Hell's Kitchen now. And it sickens me. Yeah. And you know who does it? All young people. Yeah. I say, they'll tell me I'll be crowd working. And they'll go, oh, I live in Midtown. I go, what do you do? Sleep under your fucking desk? Where do you get food from? And then I'll fucking make them pinpoint. And I go, you live in Hell's Kitchen. That should be a point of pride.
Yeah.
That's a fucking great name for a neighborhood.
I don't even think they know it's called Hell's Kitchen.
That's why I hate them.
And like because the Hell's Kitchen street fair that used to be a big thing is now just called the 8th Avenue Street Fair.
Oh, it's disgusting to me.
And that was a thing people like really used to look forward to, like coming up every year. And now it's just the 8th Avenue International Food and Drink Fair.
Such a definitive name, too. Hell's Kitchen is such a classic New York name.
Well, there's a couple of names, like Alphabet City. They literally could name a movie that and not have to explain it to anyone. It's Alphabet City because you didn't fucking go there.
Yeah.
No one went there.
Even a few years ago, I went there in college once, and I didn't even realize where I was, walking by the projects on Avenue D, and there was fucking 20 dudes standing around a barrel. The barrel was on fire, and one dude just walked by holding fucking chains, and it was the scariest moment of my life.
I can't believe that you don't understand the pleasures of a fire pit.
There's drum fire, come on.
You've seen Rocky. Get it back.
They were doing doo-wop, it would have been fine, but they were rattling chains.
Yeah, well, you know what? They should have rattled a fucking chain over you walking around someplace you don't belong.
That's what I was. That's
You're coming down from fucking Midtown the way you do. Upper Midtown. Tonight won't be just any night. That was your neighborhood, right?
Yeah,
West Side Story was your neighborhood.
It's my neighborhood. You could see like my building being built in that movie.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like when they like go over a thing of rubble, that's my building right now.
Let me just tell you this, and it's a neighborhood thing, but when you're a jet all the way. Okay. From your first cigarette to your last dying day. We're all fighting. Yeah. Why don't you just put that sticky blade right into his spine, man? Later, we'll all go out and meet girls somewhere. Right. But first, we dance. What is it about black guys and Spanish girls, though? Fucking black guys love the shit out of Spanish girls.
And the women love them back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
whether they want it or not, right, Earl? Whether they want it or not, Brett. Mind if I call you what they called you in your elite private school growing up? The Brettster?
Elite private school? I went to IS-61.
Yeah, that's a nice one. PS61, we love you. Did Earl? I know that you're a giant fan of two different things. Eminem is your favorite hippity hopper of all time,
I don't know about
and
time.
your favorite band is Talking Heads.
I love Talking Heads.
Yeah, more than Eminem.
More than Eminem.
Wow.
Yeah, Talking Heads. Like,
is that because Talking Heads stayed in their white lane where you think they belong, where Eminem pulled the rest of us out, where we could explore all the hibbity hop that we wanted to? I don't know who put this up. It's up on the iBank today, but the premise is if Eminem was in Talking Heads. Now, apparently, this is stuff not even from his songs, just stuff that Eminem said.
It's Eminem as a talking head. It was put out by the website Super Deluxe, and they took his interview in 60 Minutes, cut it up, and made it and then put it together and made it sound like a talking head.
I had
song.
no idea that Eminem was on fucking 60 Minutes. That's how weird this country has gotten. All right, do you want to jump into that, Chris?
Yeah, I think we definitely have to listen to this song.
Could we just bring up that I'm doing that thing next week?
That's you're going to be at the Newtown Theater in Newtown, Pennsylvania, Saturday, October 6th. Go to thenewtowntheater.com for tickets.
Is that too much to ask to say this? Eminem is the Talking Heads is brought to you by Ron Bennington at the Newtown Theater.
That is not too much to say.
Where can we all get tickety ticks?
You go to thenewtowntheater.com.
Could it be the Newtown
or
Theater?
Yeah, depending on how you pronounce it, thenewtowntheater.com.
You say pronounce, but I always say pronounce. Is that okay with you?
I mean, that's not pronouncing it correctly, but...
You just said pronounce the way I did.
Oh, my God.
You're picking up on it.
Oh, no.
All right, this is Eminem.
As a talking head.
If he was in Talking Heads. That's some weird shit there, huh?
I love it, though. I think that really could be a Talking Head song. They should get them back together.
It's weird that the Talking Heads just sound like the 80s now. You know what I mean? Like they seemed to me at the time they were timeless, but now they're just the 80s.
No, that was the True Stories period, like towards the end when this wasn't the the kind of the quirky art punk Talking Heads.
You're very, very judgmental.
No, not at all. It was just they had different kind of sounds and different textures during each era. Like so, the earlier was kind of art punk, and then it kind of went to funk, and then it kind of went into soundtrack work, and then it kind of just mainstreamed it out.
You're almost autistic when you get into talking about music, girl. It was just like
long walks and liner notes, Ron. long walks and liner notes.
Vito's never read a liner note in his life.
Never. You mean like an iTunes description?
No, Vito, not that. Please.
And they actually have the booklets, and if you make a download, I think on
I'm not
iTunes.
going to do that. I'm just going to live my life like there's no tomorrow. And all I've got, I got to steal. At least I don't need to beg or borrow. Earl, you're a real Yankees fan. You wear a Yankees hat 365. Chris Stanley is a fake Yankees fan, but he comes around this time of the year.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Come nuzzling back up to the pinstripes. You're playing a one-game playoff, right?
Yes.
Hopefully not. You'll play more than that, but
At least one game.
do you have a team yet that you're playing?
They are going to play Oakland. They just have to determine where the game is going to be. There's still a.
Does that matter to you?
Yeah.
You're like, well, I'll fucking play these guys down in fucking a junkyard. You know what I mean? I'll go to Pier 6 with these bastards.
I would prefer they play at home. There's nothing like a playoff game at Yankee Stadium.
That isn't Yankee Stadium. Let's agree to that. Okay.
It's the new Yankee Stadium.
Thank you. That's like
awful.
what I call that is a simulated father. Not the real thing. Christy, are you back on the bandwagon?
Bandwagon. I've been here the entire time.
Can the Yankees beat Oakland?
Yeah, the Yankees can beat Moneyball.
But
Moneyball.
that was years ago. But only here in New York. They can't win in Oakland.
They can win in Oakland. See, Earl isn't a real fan. They can win in Oakland. They can win in New York.
He is a real fan. Let's be honest.
No, I'm looking at it more like you don't want to fly halfway across the country, play the one game, then fly back, and then you run to go up. Then you have to go up to Fenway.
That's
Yeah, beat the
completely
shit out
across
of
the
those
country.
bastards.
It's not halfway. It's all the way across.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still another 15, 20 miles before you get to the ocean.
It's the bay.
and then I hate the one game playoff system.
I love
period.
it.
I hate it.
That's
I
great.
Love it.
It's pretty fun.
I went to Citi Field to see the Mets lose that game, and it was thrilling.
Exciting.
Like, it was fun. Like, I wouldn't.
I mean, the stress is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's fake stress. I mean, the playoffs are playoffs.
Yeah.
You're in the
It's real
playoffs.
stress.
You're not in the playoffs. You got to play one more game.
No, you're in the play. You've officially made playoff baseball. You play a game
Look,
more than everybody
I'm going to
else
tell you,
plays.
if your football team has to win out before the playoffs, every game is the playoffs.
Yeah.
Even if you got to win 7. I think it's very exciting when a team finds themselves 3-7, 4-8, and thinks we've got to win every game from here. I don't think it's ever happened, but I'll jump right in and be like, they're knocked out if they don't win this fucking game. This is exciting.
It just doesn't seem. It's like, well, you're in the playoffs, but you're not.
Yes, you are. That's it is a playoff game, and then you win that game, and then you're going into the next round with momentum. Like, it's the playoffs. It's a one-game playoff.
Earl, I got news for you. One time the Phils were in the playoffs. I went there, I ate a fucking handful of acid, and I smoked literally a quarter ounce of angel dust. And I was going fucking crazy at this game.
I would hope so.
Then I found out I was in the parking lot of a Walmart. And it was January. It was late January. But in my mind, I'll never forget that fucking game. Maybe the greatest game I've ever seen.
You were at a game somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Sometimes the playoffs are just in your mind. That's why I want you to enjoy it. Go all the way and beat those Oaklands. All right? Chris?
Yes.
Fake your way that you're back into the Yankees now.
Love the Yankees. Follow them very
Periscope
closely.
that game.
Me and Aaron Boone. Me and him together.
No, I had an idea for how to change the playoff system.
All right, instead of Aaron Boone,
No,
Aaron Berg comes in.
I would kill the one game playoff.
Oh my God.
You go right into the division series. The division series is a best of 3. You play 3 straight games like a regular season, and it's a best of 3.
But we used to do that.
Yeah.
And
No, it was always 3 out of 5.
Yeah, but so you're saying 2 out of 3.
2 out of 3 for the first round, and then the middle round is 3 out of 5.
Let me tell you, if you gotta fucking make it to get there, and this is a one game, you're there to make us laugh, nothing more. You know what I mean? You're there for our joy, not your own. You had 162 fucking games to take care of your destiny. Well, you didn't. But we're going to take care of that destiny for you, okay? Destiny's Child.
I like the one game play, especially because it gets more teams into the postseason. Because baseball has less teams making the postseason than most other sports, right?
Yes,
every other
and
sports,
I love that.
Every other sport's like half the league.
And I hate that.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Look at the NBA.
You just made my argument for getting rid of the wild card. Why keep adding teams?
Because
why not the playoffs have a
it's not adding a crazy
you
amount
should
of
have your
teams.
best teams go at it. Period. Not the one team that made
Didn't
the
they
run at
used
the
to
end.
do that? You would just be like, okay, here's the number one from the National League.
And it worked. It worked for a lot of years.
It worked because you only had 8 teams, Earl.
It was more than 8.
A West Coast ride was through Pittsburgh. There was nothing on the other side but woods.
I bet you the one game playoff has better ratings than any game leading up to the World Series.
Can I just tell you something? Why do we care about ratings? Let's fucking us enjoy the game. I don't care if somebody who doesn't watch the game watches the game that night. They bring this up with football all the time. Only 19 million people watched. I don't give a fuck.
All you
Those
care
are
about
the
is your
19.
team.
Exactly.
You want the Eagles to win, the Eagles to lose.
You were bragging the other day about Big Brother. You're like, oh, they get the ratings. They get the ratings.
He never shuts up about it.
Do you know that other goofy show, America's Got Talent, gets 3 times more people watching? Your show gets 5 million. I was reading the other night, theirs gets 15 million. And here comes a dog on a roller skate or someone's throwing caps at it. It doesn't mean that it's a better show. I hate when people use the ratings to go, something's better.
Yeah.
Because more people are doing it.
So I'm going to enjoy the Yankees.
Yeah.
And the A's.
Nobody went to
Go
see
Yanks.
Black Panther. That movie made $14,000 during the year. But I watched it with 2 young black boys. Yeah. And I saw them go, you know what, Mr. Bennington? I'm going to go to college now. And I go, how are you going to do that? They go, you're going to pay. I go, I don't know where you got that from. I said, I take you to Black Panther. And this ends everything. All right? Stay out of school. That's what I say. Stay out of school. Chris, what's coming up here today, buddy?
At 3:30 p.m., we'll be playing your interview with Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, and Alan Zweibel from the National Comedy Center.
Love it.
It's awesome. It's coming up in about an hour.
All right. This is going to be a lot of fun for everybody. We'll be right back. Bennington. Yeah, it's the Bennington Show. Coming up in just a little bit. It's the SNL originators, Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, Alan Zweibel. That was recorded at the wonderful National Comedy Center's grand opening weekend in Jamestown, New York at the Reg Lena Theater, which was just an amazing night for me. So much fun. Earl, that was all pre you making your comeback.
Yeah.
You would love this place.
Sounds like it was an amazing time.
Who's your favorite SNL person of all time? Let's all try to guess. I'm going to say Garrett Morris.
I was thinking Tim Meadows.
I was thinking Tracy Morgan.
Who is it, Earl?
I'm Dan Aykroyd.
Well, he's all part of this special.
Dan Aykroyd was because he was kind of the every guy.
Yeah, he kind of became like every team, every season kind of needs that Dan Aykroyd. Hey, he can play everything, and he doesn't need to, be the center of attention. He can make the sketch go forward. Vito, you of course came into SNL late, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch the early seasons? Because I know you like to go back in the history.
I've went back and I've watched stuff, but everything that's online is like weirdly edited. Like you don't get all the musical performances. There's some sketches that sometimes get cut, I think, because it's not a full hour and a half episode when you watch.
Who used to run this all the time? Wasn't it Comedy Central?
That's how I first got into it.
Yeah. What about the live shows? Who was your first live show performer?
My first was like the Will Ferrell and Tracy Morgan years.
Right.
And I was obsessed with it. Like my mom would wake me up to watch it.
That's like a gigantic comeback. Like Will Ferrell kind of put the show back in the mainstream. Like people loved all the stuff that was happening in the 90s, but for some reason, like, I don't know whether it was middle America or just regular people that he came in and pleased. Who was it for you, Chris?
It was the Dennis Miller Weekend Update era. Was the first.
Oh, so you were a Dennis Miller guy.
Yeah, I love Dennis Miller. I obviously didn't get the jokes, but I like Dennis Miller.
Yeah, do you get the jokes yet?
I still no. Yeah. Still don't understand.
You got to sit there with some history books, encyclopedias, or just your phone. I forget. I made a huge mistake there.
But my parents had VHS versions of like the first season of Saturday Night Live, or the first couple seasons, and I would watch those.
What did they buy it? Like a little
yeah, it was like a
little get together.
Yeah, like because my parents loved Saturday Night Live, constantly watching Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it was always it was a big New York show. It was something like New York was proud of. The way we all are today with Manifest, where we're just like, hey, that's Queens. There's I can see Roosevelt Island right into the east side. I was a first cast guy, and I loved all the girls. I love the girls crazy. By the way, the Gilda documentary is on demand now, and it's got so much Gilda's shit in there. So I was completely in love with her. And then Belushi was he was like the zeitgeist of that 70s thing of let's over party and let's not follow any rules. And literally, I mean, you could say he was a rebel, except for the entire planet was doing it at the same time. I don't know how rebellious it was, you know. And then, of course, Bill Murray was, you know, when he came in, people forget he had kind of a slow start, but everybody was crazy about him by the end of his run. And he and Gilda together was always really, really adorable. I had I brought this up when we had the director of Gilda. I had went to a play because Gilda was in it. It was before it came to Broadway, and I didn't know anything else about the play. I just knew that it was Gilda. I couldn't believe it was coming close. And I remember I almost stole a credit card to use because I found out that you could just call and use a credit card, and I was working at this place. And it was only later that I was able to figure out, they would have traced that fucking right back. You know what I mean? But at the time, I'm like, this is free money. And I like literally looked it over, and then something happened where I was able to put the cash together. But the funny thing about that was, because I was young and stupid, I didn't know that Sam Waterston was in the play, even after seeing him, nor did I know that Mike Nichols directed that play. So, like, a lot of people today are like, Mike Nichols is the greatest director of all time. I have no idea. I was just sitting there fucking looking at Gilda, just trying to will her. I don't know. Are you guys fans of funny ladies? You like the funny women?
I was that era I got into. Tina Fey was the Weekend Update person.
Yeah.
And as a kid, the crush I had on Tina Fey was great. And I remember like the moment it got bad for me was Trump was hosting an episode, and they did a bit where like Donald Trump bought the Weekend Update set. She came out in like this dress, and I was just floored. I was like, Tina Fey's.
Yeah, you know what's really funny too? Like, there's stuff of her when she was just a writer, and she wasn't worried about her body.
Yeah.
And then the second that she did, man, she was fucking rocking. But she's so smart and funny and like crazy married. Like fucking, you could tell, like she's not a flirter. You know what I mean? That's. You know, she fucking turned in the key and said, look, I won't be needing this anymore. Well, it's always astounding the way some people can just blow off temptation. They don't care.
How's that possible?
Lorraine and Earl, you would know this since you were the early years. She was like so fucking sexy, funny, like she was thin and kind of hip when fucking that whole thing was going down. But apparently, like, she was unaware. You know what I mean? Like, she was like literally unaware. And I when I was talking to her backstage at this, she goes, did you ever feel like there's just a sword hanging over your head? And I'm like, I'm not going to let any sword come down on you. This is going to be so much fun, you know? And it really was. Like, I don't know, it was something like 1,500, 1,800 people. The love that everybody had for these guys, it was unbelievable. And, you know, I guess you don't always see it if you're off doing other things, you know what I mean? Like, I guess a lot of people don't. But you like hearing about what you did in high school being great. People coming up to you about it. Might start to be a little annoying after a while. You know, they're all like, hey, man, you ever hear from Chit Chat anymore? And you're like, oh, shit, I forgot that dude. No, I don't know where he is. Upstate somewhere.
I always found Victoria Jackson very attractive when I was a youngster.
Because she was a gymnast? You're so right wing. Dennis Miller and Victoria Jackson, you are a forever Trumper.
Well, I am the face of the deplorables.
Oh, yeah, you did get on Fox TV for that, didn't you?
And a documentary that's being shown in schools.
Nice.
I don't know if it's nice.
Well, yes, it is nice. You're educating the youngsters. That's good.
They should know, you know.
I watched The Nanny a lot as a kid because I was really into Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher also had a fucking just unbelievable body, which you're not allowed to say in this day and age.
Like, as a kid, just I noticed how crazy her hip to waist ratio. Like, as a kid, it was just, I couldn't believe it.
Well, what was, she was in Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
And she had that crazy voice and she was fucking smoking, you know? She also played a small part in Ragtime where she was an adulteress. And it's a very, the cuck comes back and finds out and he's screaming in the street and ripping her shirt where she yells no. And it's like, you're like a Fran, you could have done whatever you wanted. It was your world.
I think for Ellen, watching the Ellen show also. Didn't realize that she was lesbian.
That's hard to believe.
I just didn't know. I was a stupid young boy.
Yeah, Ellen has that, you know, and she was like, she had that Emma Willman thing where like she's really sexy, but the touch of masculinity makes her like kind of cool at the same time. Like people forget, like she was like a real road comic before this weirdness of becoming just fucking a lesbian Oprah, I guess. I don't know. But she was just, her stand-up was fucking great. Great. And you wouldn't even know that now by watching her show, you know? She doesn't need it. She doesn't need to be clever anymore.
She just has to dance. I think she's still dancing.
I don't know. I haven't seen that show in years. They're always giving somebody a washer dryer. So to me, those are the cheapest pops that you're just like, we're paying off your house. Yes, everyone's going to applaud at that. If I had a giant budget, I could get that applause all the time.
I think the last clip of hers I watched was when, remember Damn Daniel, the kid with the white Vans?
Oh, do I remember Damn Daniel?
Damn Daniel.
Damn Daniel.
With the white Vans. She like had Damn Daniel come on and then gave him a year's worth of white Vans, which I think would be one pair.
He's probably already getting it from them anyway. You know, they probably went batshit when he started doing that.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was one of the first viral people, right?
Yeah, he was, I think it was Vine or Twitter.
He was Vine. I'm pretty sure he was Vine, but yeah, he was one of the first ones where it was like, they took a bunch of clips of that one thing, put it together, and then that exploded.
Well, I think Earl was one of the real first to go viral with Chocolate Rain. Do you ever
that was
you ever do that song anymore?
I don't think I was me.
You could have literally, like, if you were on SNL, we're like, all right, we're doing the Chocolate Rain set. Where's Earl right now?
Remember the sequel, Cherry Chocolate Rain?
I got to be honest, I do not. I got off on the.
He got a deal with Dr. Pepper, and it was, and he got some.
Is that right?
Yeah, he was, I believe, he was in a Dr. Pepper, like at least online only commercial. I don't know if he made it to TV.
Well, you probably got $600-700 for it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Dr. Pepper's got the cash.
Like he was one of those guys that, he's like the guy who did the, what was the movie, The Room or something like that?
Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. Where like later he's like, now I'm in on the joke, and we're like, you're fucking ruining it. You know what I mean? Just go out and be serious. And let us, like when Trump was in front of the fucking United Nations and everybody was laughing. You know what I mean? Now, next time he's going to try to get that laugh. Don't do it, dude. Just be yourself.
I like to go check up on like some of those viral people from like years ago.
I bet you do.
This kid, Latarian Milton, was the one who said it's fun to do bad things. And he was like, I'm just doing hood rat stuff with my friends. He stole his grandma's car.
I don't remember this at all.
What? It was this like chubby black teenager.
Do you mean Charlie Bit Me? Is that what you're saying? We all remember that one.
Is that the Turtles kid?
No.
Charlie bit my finger.
Star Wars kid. That's what you're thinking.
No, Latarian Milton. He's back.
Oh, yeah. He's the Star Wars kid?
No, he's not the Star
Wars kid. He
Wars
didn't fucking
kid.
know, and he was just having a nice,
garage, you know?
fun, like, yeah. I think it was in his shop class in school. That was the dorkiest part of it all.
No, you're thinking of Kai the Hitchhiker, the guy.
No,
who,
I'm not thinking of Kai.
Oh, I forgot Kai. Remember? Then he went right to fucking jail.
because he like met a guy in Jersey and then killed him. And it was like a gay hookup.
Yeah, he would do the grinder type things of the day, and then the second that person would, okay, so we're here for the gay thing, he would act offended and try to kill them.
And now he's in prison, sadly.
Oh. So it's a tough road, Chris. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a tough fucking road. I mean, if you don't believe me, check with Dennis Miller and Victoria Jackson.
I will. My political gurus.
Yeah.
Actually, I found out that I thought I was a registered Democrat my entire voting life. And when I went to go vote for Cynthia Nixon and Cuomo, I found out I'm in the Reform Party. Dude, I had to look up first of all, I had to look up what the fuck is the Reform Party.
You know why I know that this was just an honest mistake? Because you make up my schedule. And I see you don't know what the fuck you were doing with paperwork.
And apparently it's Ross Perot's fucking party. Yeah. I had never heard of the Reform Party. I don't know why I'm in the Reform Party.
Here's what you're going to do. Yeah. You're going to get those fat cats out of Washington once and for all. You're going to fucking drain the swamp.
Finally, get that swamp nice and dry. Yeah, so I had to look that up, and I voted for someone in the Reform Party. Not sure who it was.
Earl's a straight independent now, right?
Yeah, but they won't get the paperwork processed in time. But I switched. I'm done with both parties.
But now you'll never vote in another primary. You wouldn't have been able to vote for Cynthia Nixon. Put her over the top.
Come over to the Reform Party, Earl. It's great over here.
So well, you went to Ross Perot.
You went to reform school. You might as well go to the Reform Party now. So coming up in just a little bit, it's that SNL originators, and Chris doesn't ever want to bring it up, but I'm going to be at the Newtown Theater Saturday, October 6th, Newtown Theater in Newtown, Pennsylvania. Chris is making sure that he throws as many gigs in front of me before then.
I know.
As he possibly can.
There's a lot to do.
I can never read on your light paper when you do that.
Pass that over, Vito.
Why don't we just say it? Because everybody knows that we have a heart out here, so we can throw it to the big SNL originators list.
So that's coming up in about 20 minutes.
I got to think of it as like any other. I mean, for me, I'd always like to do something like that with the Pythons. I don't know if they're still doing it. We might be like a couple years, past where everybody can get together and be able to sit for an hour. But who would you like to see one of these big gigs with, Chris?
I would like to my personal dream thing. I would love to see you interview would be Matt and Trey from South Park. I think that team, I would love to even talk to
We've
them.
never even met them, right?
No, they came up once in all the years that we've been up here, and that was for the Broadway channel, and they had like 20 minutes and left.
Oh yeah, that Broadway show, they're still running after all these years.
Yeah.
Still getting huge laughs and standing ovations.
I saw it in previews, everyone. That's right.
And you still see people blowing up from being on in that play. Like Paperboy from Atlanta was in Book of Mormon.
I had no idea. What did he do? He was one of the Africans?
I don't know. I just know he was.
Oh, you never saw Book of Mormon?
No, I never saw Book of Mormon.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Paperboy's great, man.
Yeah.
So he's like a legitimate actor.
He's not a comedian. He's an actual like Broadway stage trained actor.
He seems like such a street guy.
Yeah.
Like he is so good that Earl, do you watch Atlanta?
I love Atlanta.
It's so fucking good, right?
Yeah,
and I was really wanting to hate it because so many people tell me I gotta see it.
When he does the little that eye stare, it just says everything.
It's fucking hilarious, man. He never has a good day. You know what I mean? There's always some disrespect to that fucking guy.
The barbershop episode.
Oh yeah,
was classic.
So much shit he had to go through that day. To me, that I always call that Black Manifest, where everybody's talking about it, seems to be the thing. You're not on it yet, huh, Vito?
What, the
Manifest?
No, I haven't watched Manifest yet.
You know what it's about, right?
I think so. It's about a plane crashes and they're looking at the manifest.
You would think. Here's what happened.
What?
So here's what happened. Everybody gather close for this.
Okay.
So a plane. So first we meet this family, and there's a deal that comes up. Hey, if you go later, you get $400, right? If you take the next plane. So half the family goes that way. The fucking plane takes off and they're all, dealing with their shit. And then there's turbulence. And there's real fucking bad turbulence. The lights are going out, blah, blah, blah. And fuck, is this plane going down? And they're like, oh, everything's okay. Good. All right, we're pulling into New York. And the guy's saying, hey, this is blah, blah, blah. We're pulling into New York. And the tower's like, what is your name? And who's on this plane? And he gives his name and he gives the fucking information. Says, I have 185 people on this plane. And they're like, all right, we're going to divert you to this little airport upstate a little bit. Plane comes in and lands. Fucking cop cars everywhere, feds. And they're fucking questioning everybody. Everyone's like, what is going on? And they said, you've been missing for 5 years. This plane was presumed down for 5 years. Now, in our set, we see, from what we could see, there's no magic took place. Just whatever that disturbance was, kicked them ahead 5 fucking years. So now, one of the twins is little and the other twin is older. And then shit starts to fuck with their heads. They start to get some kind of messages, seemingly from even a future self or something. We don't know. Manifest. This year's Atlanta.
I'm all in.
Well, it's going to let you down because it's one of the, all those shows do. Every single one of those shows let you down.
Did Under the Dome ever have an ending?
Yeah, they found out that whole time all they needed to do was dig a hole. No, Under the Dome was one that we all started on.
Yeah.
And by the second year, we're like, what? Some of them got out of the dome and back in the dome.
It's bullshit.
Yeah, it was just stupid.
Yeah, they call them event series, and it reached its peak when NBC literally made a show called The Event.
Yeah.
One that was truly awful was like Twin Pines or something, where a guy like Matt Dillon. Matt Dillon wakes up in a town.
I watched every episode of that garbage.
It was really bad.
Every fucking episode.
It was really, really bad.
Doesn't mean I'm going to turn it off.
No, I read the books too after the TV show.
Really? Did you like the books?
The books were much better.
Ooh, what a shock, Chris.
Much better, Ron.
What a shock, you literate bastard. It's hard for me even to read novels now.
Why?
I don't know whether it's the internet or because I have to read so many bios, but by the time I sit down and start to read novels, it doesn't have the same... I don't have the same relationship as and I'm like, I definitely want to get back to reading novels, but I think there's just something happening with your phone and thing about that it doesn't set up the kind of headspace you need to be in.
I find like I read like I read like trash novels, like it's fucking junk food or whatever, and then I read it. I'm like, this is awful, but I'm still fucking.
I think you've only read trash novels as long as I've known you.
I've read a lot of trash novels.
You've never come to me and recommended a book because you're too embarrassed and humiliated by your taste.
Well, I mean, lately I was reading like the sex novels that are becoming very popular.
Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Read Manifest. See how it ends.
I found out my high school teacher got like $1 million book deal, wrote a book, came out, and kids in my school were pissed because he used something that kids used to do in school in his book. We used to take loose leaf paper and draw a dick on it with chalk. And then because we were Catholic school wearing sweaters, you go up and you'd slap it on a kid's back, and then he'd be walking onto the dick and not know. This guy put it in his book.
Yeah, but for all you know, that something's been around for 50 years. Well, you don't know if the guys in your school invented it.
We felt like we invented it. We felt like that was our
You
thing.
would know who the guy was because there's no team invention of something like that. It's basically tagging.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what was the name of this book? This $1 million book.
I don't remember the name. I remember the teacher's name.
Vito and the Boys.
Teacher's name was Matthew Thomas, and then everybody was really excited he got this book deal. But then when I found out he took the chalk dick, I was pissed.
Stop it. He had every right to that chalk dick.
Are you going to sue him now, Vito?
No, I'm not going to sue him, but he knows I'm out here.
He knows I'm out of here. Still doing your chalk dick bit.
Every day Chris comes in.
And I bet it doesn't even work.
With sweaters, it works. It doesn't work with just regular clothes. It has to be like a shitty Catholic school sweater.
Is that no one's falling for this, right?
We should do it to Earl. Just to see
All
if it
this is going to
works.
look like is a smudge.
No, it won't work on his blazer. It has to be like it'll probably work on this sweater.
Now, was it a dick or a dick and balls?
Dick and balls.
Okay.
Full sheet size. It would be, you did a big one all the way up on the paper.
Now, was the character Soda Pop based on you or Pony Boy? Vito was mad because one of the characters ate 3 lunches.
Just didn't seem right.
Yeah, that's yours.
Yeah. I did bring a lunch and then sometimes buy lunch at school as well. Why not? If it's French fry and chicken nugget day.
That's sad, though. Yeah, that's really sad.
Yeah.
At your school, there was a kid named Kavanaugh who put his dick in your face, and now you're afraid to stand up to him. Earl, you always seem like you got a radio book in you. What are you waiting for? You've been to fly the wall so many legendary radio things.
Yeah, I actually kind of got a couple of pages, documents of bits and pieces of weird things that happen and funny things that happen.
And no one's going to buy that. You got to do some work. You got to do some actual work.
No, but putting it all together, I mean, that takes a minute.
Were you aware that Opie and Anthony weren't as close as the rest of us thought? Since you were there every day?
I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked. I mean, there was always. I remember when they would take the train in together. They would. You didn't see one without the other for a while.
You're almost thinking gay.
Not gay, but
Okay.
like they were
But I
they were
mean,
friends. You know,
But people were, you say, talking about that. Like
No.
maybe they were gay.
not at all.
That's what I'm hearing.
When I used to do the Ron and Ron show and Fez was on it, people would say to me all the time, "Is that dude gay? Is he really gay or is that a character?" And then I would always be laughing like, I don't know. From fucking 6 to 10, I think he is, And then the second we did the Ron and Fez show, people would say to me, "Are you guys gay?" What the fuck? Where the fuck?
How did I become we? Just in a slight
I remember we went to Gail's school. She was doing a play, and Fez came over because Fez was like an uncle to my kids. And Gail introduced me to one of her friends. She said, "This is my dad, and this is his partner, Fez." And since this is New York City, I'm like, "Oh, that's so nice."
Performing arts school.
Yeah. They're like, "Oh, good. You're a family. Don't anyone ever tell you that you're not." Because it was pre-marriage. Gay marriage. Straights could marry. Is your church anti-gay marriage or pro-gay marriage?
anti. They don't really talk about it.
Yeah, but you look at each other like, yeah, that's marriage. Did you do anything to help squash gay marriage? Do you hate the idea of gay marriage?
My attitude is never change. What two people do in the privacy of their own
They're
home.
assholes.
No.
Oh, I thought you
it's
meant in
like,
the privacy of their own assholes.
really, what two people do is really.
I know,
It's their
but marriage is not private. It's a public thing.
Yeah, but
How
at the
about
same
what
time-
3 people do in the privacy of their own home? Sometimes that can be fun.
Yeah, it's their business. I don't care what they do.
7? Does that start? Is there a point that it gets weird for you?
No.
If the entire state of Montana was all banging, sucking, and licking at the same time? Now, Fez was at the Monday night game, the disaster, and he was texting me through the whole thing, right?
I was thinking of it that game.
Yeah, it was so mean that they came back the way they did,
I know.
and then he restunk. Somebody wrote to me too, asking me if Ryan Fitzpatrick went out with your friend Lily.
No,
Was there a famous guy?
no, he was like the second string.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
Jason Pierre-Paul. That's what
Not
you
Jason
dated.
Pierre-Paul.
Sims?
Post stump.
No, it was a.
Was it Bart Starr?
It was a. It was one of the backup quarters for the Bills.
Oh, Norm Snead. So Dungy was going into the Tampa Ring of Honor, and everybody was coming back to honor him. And Fez stood up, walked out of the stadium, took a piss, and then bought himself a water so he didn't have to sit there and see that anti-marriage advocate.
Forgot that he was the anti-gay marriage guy.
I had forgotten the whole thing.
So he did his own he did a protest.
He did a protest that no one noticed, I guess, but it meant a lot to him. And I think he called him Mike Pence's lapdog.
I know him and Pence were so tight.
The football Ring of Honor stuff is so funny because you just see a lot of fans be like, "Oh, they're doing this today, huh?"
Yeah.
Like nobody has any idea.
Well, normally it happens long enough after any accomplishments mean anything to anybody, you know? And that's the thing that I've noticed is like when they told you like when you were a kid, like, oh, fame is fleeting. It's fucking true. You know what I mean? It is absolutely true. But by the time they get around to giving you the Oscar for Lifetime, everyone's like, who's this old fucking fuck?
Get him off the stage.
No one yells that, Chris. Why would they boo the person and demand that they were removed from the stage?
They want to get through that whole ceremony.
When you're at the Victoria Jackson Ring of Honor, you'll be going fucking crazy. Bip, bip, boo. Just looking at the news someday, it's too fucking crazy. Too crazy.
What?
It's none of your business. It's none of your goddamn business.
Sorry.
We'll try to think where we are right now. Where we are and where that is.
Yeah.
Put that fucking head together. Ba-ba-bum-bee-bee. See what I mean? You understand radio, Earl.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Most of the time. I think Earl's moved back into the number one position this early.
Shit. I really wanted to hold on to that number one.
You were never number one.
I maybe at times I thought I could have got there.
You panic too much.
Yeah, there's some. I had to learn to control my emotions. I think that's a big thing, like in all my life, because otherwise,
What'd you do? Hit your girlfriend?
No,
Is that what this is
I
about?
don't hit women. I do not do that.
Didn't you rip the shirt off your last girlfriend? You just tore her fucking shirt off when you were mad at her at a fucking store or something. Told her to walk home with her titties bouncing. That's fucking terrible in this time that we're in now.
I didn't. I held her once because she was losing her shit. Because
boy,
she kicked me in my bad knee. All right, I just got surgery and she. Kicked
all
me
you have is bad knees, Chris. We would have nowhere to kick you if we were trying to avoid injuries.
And then I took my cane and then broke it against the wall.
Her hip?
No, not her hip.
It sounded like it was her hip. Why did she kick you? To save her own life?
It was during like the initial breakup. And it was just a whole fucking thing. It was just fucking very emotional and crazy.
Why did you keep the breakup going so long?
I don't know, because she just wouldn't stop talking. It was in my apartment. So I was just going to leave my apartment and leave her there to trash everything.
Do you think she had already started her affair by the time she was fighting with you?
What affair? What are you talking about?
Well, the guy that she ended up with.
I don't know who she ended up with. I have no connection to her.
It was
whatsoever.
one of your friends.
What? How do you even know that?
You do know that. You don't think I'm going to check in once that thing went down?
What?
Your friends were quick to explain themselves.
That's weird.
And a lot of them thought that you physically hurt her.
I never physically hurt.
Well, why did all your friends stop hanging out with you?
I don't know. Fuck them. They took her side. I don't care. They didn't go fucking suck my dick.
That sounds aggressive.
Yeah, it is aggressive.
And almost rapey.
All right, look. I've never beat a woman or raped a woman. I shouldn't have to say this as much as I do.
All right, then you're Supreme Court Justice. I believe him. But when you know that you're a blackout drunk like you are.
Yes, I am.
And when your girlfriend breaks up with you, all your buddies stop being your friend. They all believe something about you.
Well, you know what? Whatever they believe is fucking wrong. Because I'm not a physically abusive person. Maybe emotionally, but fucking physically, no.
Have you ever double dated with Zito and his wife?
No. I've not gone on a double date, no.
So your girlfriend hasn't met them?
She met them briefly, but it wasn't like a double date situation. I think we ran into them or something.
A train or something.
That wasn't a train, Ron.
You were getting off the train and they were. I remember he got this girlfriend he said he loves. He brought her around once to meet us, but there was a second time?
Thanksgiving.
Oh, is she coming to Thanksgiving this year?
Yeah, she'll be coming to Thanksgiving this year.
Ooh, it's going to be a good show, right?
It's going to be a great show.
It has to be because last year was so great. That's the fucked up thing.
I know.
Last year was so fantastic that this year's got to be quacktastic.
It's going to be quacktastic. It's going to be a quacktastic Thanksgiving for everyone.
I know what you want, Vito. Wine.
That's all I ever want.
I always call him Wine.
Peace, man. You're the coolest. I love when a black guy just gives you the peace sign.
Makes you feel cool.
Or was that 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Let's see. What can I talk about for the next 120 seconds? Digging away. Well, we are going to go to break. And when we come back, it is going to be the SNL originators, man. Dan Aykroyd, Earl's all-time favorite, and he was just fantastic doing this. Lorraine Newman, who a lot of people don't get to see, she does a lot of, an incredible amount of voiceover work now. And Alan Zweibel, who is one of my favorite people in the world because I told you before, I love Gilda Radner, and he has a million Gilda Radner stories and will tell you each one of them. He has no problem. So there's a play that he wrote about the two of them called Bunny Bunny, and looking to bring that back to New York stage, hopefully Broadway. But he co-wrote all the stuff with her. He was in love with her, and he was the only guy she wouldn't date because she knew it would be a Chris Stanley ending to the relationship and they wouldn't write. But so there he is in love with her. He gets what she's saying, but then he has to see her date everybody else because she was, it was the 70s. She was enjoying life.
Yeah, why not?
But it was gutting him.
It must have.
Yeah. Every week he was a fresh cuck to another situation. I don't know if I could do it if I was him. And yet, what's more important than the work? The work is important, but your man brain fucks you up.
Yeah, at the very least, turning you like passive aggressive or something to the point, not like being like, we can't do this anymore, but just like being passive aggressive enough to like where she's like, I can't deal with you anymore.
Just ruin the work?
Yeah, just fucking ruin the work.
Is that what you're doing to me, dude?
I'm
it
not.
Seems like you're passively aggressively attacking me every single day.
I love you.
It's I call it the Pearl Harbor of passivity.
Shit.
And it's just these tiny little bombs that come in and do just a little bit of damage. Not destruction, just an annoying amount of damage. I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
You're an evil genius in your own passive way.
I'm not passive.
Well, I hate that we have to throw it to break on this, but I want you to hang around and come back. It's the SNL originators, stories from the early days of SNL. This took place at the National Comedy Center. Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, Alan Zweibel. We'll be right back, Bennington. Welcome. This was so much fun. We recorded this at the grand opening of the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York. Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, Alan Zweibel came to Jamestown for the big event. And we were at this Reg Lena Theater. Beautiful theater. 1,800 SNL fans packed it to see. It was an amazing and crazy week. So many legends came to Jamestown that week. As a matter of fact, I remember walking out in this massive theater and seeing George Slatter. The one guy that I saw just sitting in the middle, George Slatter, the guy who started laughing. It was amazing. George Shapiro was there, Lily Tomlin, Louis Black, W. Kamau Bell, Amy Schumer, Paul Provenza, and the families of all the legends. Kelly Carlin and Patrick Carlin were there. Harold Ramis's daughter, Violet, she had just written a book about her father. Lenny Bruce's daughter, Kitty, was there. It was an amazing time to be there, and I can't recommend the National Comedy Center in Jamestown enough. And I've been to all the Hall of Fames. I brought this up before, but I've been to Cooperstown and I've been to Canton, and I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's the best experience I've ever had. And to think that this is for comedy, it just blew me away. The Carlin exhibit, I could have moved in there. I went down to the Blue Room downstairs. Lenny Bruce's coat is there. And I was just engulfed in all the Lenny Bruce stuff. But then I went back and found some of these party records from the 1960s. And they were just phenomenal. I forgot to bring this up. The Gaffigan hologram was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life. The comedy continuum, giant touchscreen wall, the exhibits on late night. You know, I'm seeing stuff there from the Larry Sanders Show, the writer's room, the illustrators. It was amazing. It's so much fun. And it's also, by the way, Jamestown is a really cool town, very old school industrial town that's being kind of reborn with an emphasis on the arts. And the National Comedy Center is all part of that. When I went out to do the panel with the originators, Dan Aykroyd, Lorraine Newman, Zway Bell, I was worried a little bit because I normally do these kind of panel interviews or one-on-one interviews with a much smaller audience. Normally you don't get bigger than 200-300. And this beautiful theater is just packed. I'm like, man, I don't know how we're going to work to the back of the room because it's not singing and dancing, it's conversation. And the amazing thing is they had so much love for the original SNL that I could see and feel the entire place leaning forward. It was such a fun time. If you get a chance, go to Jamestown. You're never going to have another experience like this. I'll never forget like the comics walking all around town, interacting with people. And I saw Aykroyd jump up on this stage that was just like a street fair. And he jumps up and he's playing the harmonica with people. He's riding around town on a motorcycle that he had given. He was tending bar in this, small bar nearby. It was so much fun. So I'm going to throw it now to the start of this. And this is Journey Gunderson. And I'm going to throw it now to the start of this. And this is Journey Gunderson. And she is the person who told us that this was going to be great for comedy. And they were going to, really take care of comedy and promote it in a way and promote all of our heroes in a way that they deserved. And for years, we just hoped that that was true. But to actually go there and see it happen, that was just stunning. So proud to have been part of this. This is at the Reg Lena Theater. As I said, just totally packed. And I'll chuck it over to Journey Gunderson.
Hello, Jamestown! Welcome to the home of the new National Comedy Center. I'm pleased to report that we have visitors in town from all 50 states for this week's grand opening. And I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to celebrate one of the most incredible and enduring comic institutions in our nation's history, Saturday Night Live. Your host for this evening is one of the most respected interviewers in the country. You can hear him each day on the Ron Bennington Show on Sirius XM, and also on his award-winning interview series, Unmasked. Let's give a warm Jamestown welcome to Ron Bennington!
Journey.
Wow. So cool to be here tonight. There's so many great shows going on, but I think if there's one show that you like to have tickets, it's to this show tonight, Saturday Night Live. And as I come walking out, I see George Slaughter, the man who created Laugh-In, is sitting in the audience tonight. Wow. Now, Saturday Night Live was one of those shows that changed everything in comedy. This was pretty much the Beatles of comedy in the 1970s. And let me just tell you who we've got on this panel tonight, because this is pretty amazing. Alan Weibel is here tonight, one of the original writers. Five-time Emmy Award winner, 2 Writers Guild Award. Now, not only did he write for Saturday Night Live, but he wrote for Curb Your Enthusiasm, and of course, it's Gary Shandling's show, which he co-created, and many, many others. And it looks like his play about Gilda Radner, Bunny Bunny, is going to be returning to Broadway. It's just amazing. Also, Lorraine Newman is here tonight. Not only was she one of the original cast members of Saturday Night Live, but she also started the Groundlings with her friends, which has kept American comedy filled for generations. Lorraine Newman is here. And also, a gentleman who was not only a not ready for primetime player, but also a blues brother, a Ghostbuster. Dan Aykroyd is here tonight. Let's bring out our guest tonight. Are you ready? From Saturday Night Live, it's Alan Weibel. Lorraine Newman. And Dan Aykroyd. Musical chairs as we get started here. It's a nice way to start this off. First of all, congratulations for a couple things. Here we are 43 years after the start of this show, and people still want to talk about it with you every day. What does that even feel like?
It's pretty amazing. It's 43 years. I'm a grandfather now. It was a very long time ago since I had electroshock therapy. And we're still here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live has been this institution. It's the Today Show. It's just always there. And it goes through all these different permutations of cast members and writers. And it just feels great that we were a part of this at the beginning.
Is it shocking to you, Lorraine, that this is...
Yeah, because it was only supposed to be 13 weeks. But I love it. You know, I've started watching it after the 90s because there was no DVR at that point. And I love it. I'm so inspired by the new writers, the new performers. It's always just showcased people with very unique styles and voices.
Now, what about for you, Dan? Did you see this taking off like this 43 years ago?
I think after the George Carlin night that we knew that it would endure, it just worked that first night. And Lauren said, I'm not going to do a pilot where you got to give me 7 of them, so that by the 7th show we'd served ourselves well and proved ourselves. But look at what came after. Look at the work of Phil Hartman and
Yes.
Dan Hooks and Farley and Eddie Murphy and
Kristen Wiig.
Kristen Wiig. And now today the show is really more necessary than ever, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kate McKinnon is like a gift from God.
Oh, God. Brilliant.
So it just keeps coming and coming,
Yeah.
That is the amazing thing, is they keep finding this talent. But even now, I think more people have been to space than have been a cast member on Saturday Night Live. It's still a really special thing for anybody to get that show. What were the three of you doing before you got this gig? Like right before you got on Saturday Night Live?
I was writing jokes for comedians who played in the Catskill Mountains. I was giving $7 a joke. That was the going rate.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear a $7 joke, I'd be happy to. First joke I ever got $7 for, I was 21, and a comedian called me up and said, "Alan, can you give me any jokes about sperm banks?" So the first joke I ever got $7 for, I said, "They have a new thing now called sperm banks, which is just like an ordinary bank, except here, after you make a deposit, you lose interest." Yeah, that's what.
I honestly think that's an $8 joke. I think you could have got an extra.
Yeah, I think he screwed me too. You're right.
Lorraine, what about for you?
Well, I was in the Groundlings, and thank you. And I was working for a booking agent for rock bands with names like Pat and Pending, and the girl was Pat. The biggest act that he represented was Cannibal and the Headhunters. And I would type up contracts, and also I had worked with Lorne on a Lily Tomlin special. So.
Yeah. So he had you in mind as you were doing that. But I think the difference from you two coming from LA as a young girl at the time, you're in your early 20s, and moving to Manhattan in the middle of the 70s. Not everybody made it out of there alive. That had to be pretty scary.
Well, I was really inexperienced, and I was a young 23. And I had no family there. I didn't know anybody there. And Gilda was my first friend, actually. Wow. And she introduced me to a lot of my future friends. I think the first thing she did was take me to a recording of a National Lampoon record, and I met Bill Murray and Brian Doyle Murray and Chris Guest and Harold Ramis, and those were the first people I met when I was in New York.
Dan, what about for you?
Well, I was in Toronto at Second City, the company up there. Yeah. So basically doing that, and I was also filming a movie at the time called Love at First Sight, where I played a blind man who drives a car and feeds his fish pepper instead of, those little cans, they're red and white. They look like pepper, but the fish flakes, he thought he was feeding fish flakes, but the cans felt the same. He was killing his fish with pepper. It was pretty good sightless jokes in there. Valerie Bromfield and I did the first movie, and then Marianne McDonald. But I was working on a film and doing Second City, and I had a radio commercial business with Dave Thomas, Dave and...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I also had my 505 club. I had the speakeasy going, and, so I had a lot of rackets happening. Always something on the side,
So did you see this as a big break, or was this just another project for you when you got on SNL?
For me, total, absolute. I wasn't hired right away. I had to kind of get in there because Lorne wasn't sure about hiring both Belushi and I, because we came to the show. We'd already cooked up the Blues Brothers, and he was afraid we had a cabal already. And I'll hire one of them, but not both. So it was Gilda and Franken and Davis that convinced Lorne to hire both Johnny and I. Really hire me along with John. So yeah.
It was John that was the hard sell.
Is that right?
Yeah, but they needed him to shave. He had a beard. So.
Yeah,
But he
no
was-
one in comedy really had a beard back then. It's kind of interesting to think of.
I had a mustache, which I wore throughout the 2 years of the show. I did Carter and Nixon with a mustache. Why did I have that? I wonder, why? Well, because I thought, well, you know, this isn't going to last. I don't know. Maybe it might not last, and I'll have to be a prison guard, and, you know, I guess I need that mustache for, you know, for my corrections work. But no, I felt it was a huge break. And I remember that just before going on, we did a thing with Garrett and I rewrote a thing where, you know, he's a lawn jockey, you know, and, you know, and we did this thing where we break into a house where, you know, we're like burglars that are showing you how vulnerable your house is. And I remember standing back under the stands there and going, you know, this is, you know, this next moment in my life is going to be very key, you know, because if it works, I think it could be a lot of longevity. If it doesn't, you know I can get a good price on that snowplow that I saw, you know, last week, you know. So the import of it was felt that first moment that I went on, you know, yeah.
Alan, Lorraine just mentioned Franklin and Davis. Tell everybody about the writing staff, because it also was just this murderer's row of comedy writers.
Originally, there were 10 writers. Lorne was included. Chevy was included. Al Franken, Tom Davis, myself, Tom Schiller, Michael O'Donoghue, Ian Beats, Rosie, right?
Marilyn.
And Marilyn Miller. So those were the 10 writers. And Lorne, the very, very first meeting, I remember him saying, when we said, what's this show going to be like? And he said, well, it's going to be a comedy variety show. But he went on to elaborate saying that means that was a variety of different kinds of comedy. Oh. Okay? And it was true, because if you look at that writing staff, you know, you had Michael O'Donoghue, who founded the National Lampoon, right? You had me, who was this big Jew gag writer, you know. You know, I got the job based on one joke that I had written for Lorne.
Tell him the joke.
I had said that the post office was about to issue a stamp commemorating prostitution in the United States. 10-cent stamp. If you want to lick it, it's a quarter, okay? It's so weird, because now I do these college, you know, speaking engagements, and 17-year-old kids go, well, why would you lick a stamp? You know? you just peel it and put it on, you know, fuck. But you had Franken and Davis, who were really funny, but more politically bent. They did the greatest, I think, political satires of the years that we were there. And that was the next year, I think, is when Jim Downey joined us straight out of Harvard. And he also added to that. Michael O'Donoghue's stuff was just from Mars, but amazing. He wrote this Citizen Kane sketch, which was a classic. And I remember every script that he wrote, each page might have had this much dialogue, but this much stage direction, right?
All printed in block printing, just meticulously printed in block printing. In these cards, on this card.
The way graphic artists print.
Yeah.
That kind of printing.
Yeah, they were works of art.
Oh, and Herb Sargent.
Yes.
Herb Sargent was one of the original, and he was older than us. He was like in his 50s and he was like the grown-up. And he had produced a show called That Was the Week That Was, and he had written classic radio shows. So it was really a terrific balance.
So that was the origin of Update with Herb there.
That was the origin of Update. The guy from That Was the Week That Was going to move over, and he was going to head this Weekend Update segment of the show.
But everybody had their style. I mean, I don't even know how one would describe Tom Schiller's style. But it just, I thought it was brilliant. It was so funny. And Rosie Schuster, the same thing. And Marilyn Miller, you know, she brought a real kind of feminine perspective that was still edgy enough to be, you know, funny for everybody.
And real truth in character and writing. Marilyn's pieces were always full in depth of, you know, psychological exploration of characters, full of heart.
Yeah.
And depth, you know, just really, really, just. Well, I always loved playing her pieces.
Yeah.
You know, they, you know, you had to step up and
it was awe-inspiring. I remember I was so amazed being among this group of writers. I would just like wander into their offices, you know, and if they weren't there, I'd look and see what they were working on. And Rosie Schuster, I don't wonder if you remember, she pitched an idea which was the worst. She said she had an idea of the worst gifts that anybody had ever gotten. And number one on the list was when Anne Frank got a drum set.
Wow. So good.
Yeah.
Now, certain cast members naturally fit with certain writers, and certain writers were drawn to cast members. What about for you, Lorraine? Was anyone in particular, any of the writers that you felt you really liked to collaborate with?
I loved everybody's style. And when I got there, I drove to New York with my boyfriend, and I had all of my material from the Groundlings in the car, and the car was stolen.
Oh.
And Lauren said, why don't you do a little kind of presentation for the writers so they can get an idea of what you do? And I had the worst kind of stage fright. I was like out of my body, just kind of like a meat puppet. And I really felt like it wasn't my best foot forward. But then when I got a chance to really just kind of portray my characters while someone was writing and see how that character would fit into a sketch, I began to be able to really communicate what I was doing. But I loved everybody's style.
I'm really even curious if you're talking about that. Do you realize, Lorraine Newman, how much America loves you and has always loved you? It's just, I've always been curious about that.
Thank you. Was that a sad story? Is that why you said that?
But it is true. And you know, each cast member, I think about that original show, that it was always so interesting that everybody had their own spot too, right? Who did you love working with? And you're a writer yourself.
I love being recruited into pieces and saying, we need you to do this or need you to do that, or loved going out and using the skills, you know, of the talents. You know, Davis and I, we wrote stuff for Lorraine and myself, you know, and Lorraine, of course, with us, the three of us writing together. But I loved working with him. And Zweibel, I would seek him out to go, you know, our styles are so different. I come from this absurdist English music hall, Canadian CBC sensibility, and you're Catskills Jewish, you know, Yiddish theater, the Lower East Side, you know, that tradition of the Chelm, the sages of Chelm, yeah. You know,
it was a lot of Chelm,
you know, the sages of Chelm, you know, yeah, the original jokes, you know, the two guys are sitting in the field and a bird, you know, drops something on the shoulder, and the guy goes, you know, oh boy, why should such a beautiful creature do that to me? And the other guy says, better it's not a cow. You know? Well, I'd seek Alan out because I want to work with this guy because I know we could do some stuff together, and we did. We always
we wrote Dragnet together. We wrote the movie Dragnet together.
Yeah.
And it was, Dan had written a first draft, and they sent it to me, and of course I wanted to work with Dan again. And we lived together for however long. We went up to Martha's Vineyard to your house, and it was like living with Joe Friday for 2 weeks, okay? And the sensibilities were just so different, but there was respect that we both have, and it fit. Do you remember we once wrote a piece, I think it was about an early kind of an ATM, where a guy got all sorts of things that came out of it in addition to cash, including head cheese.
Yeah, you could get
came out of that.
We loved that idea of that slip putting out stuff other than money. Yeah, you know.
You also, of course, formed a partnership with Gilda Radner, and tell us some of the things that you guys wrote together.
Well, Gilda and I hit it off immediately, and some of the things that we developed together. I had a hand in Emily Latella, as did other writers, and Rosanna Dana was probably the most. But once again, the show is so collaborative. Even something like Rosanna Dana was it started off many shows earlier. Rosie Schuster had written a public service announcement for people. It was called Hire the Incompetent, okay? And Gilda played that woman with that dialect, and I think with that hair, and she was talking about why she got fired from McDonald's, you know, and she basically was using the hamburgers as a deodorant pad, okay? And then I was running Weekend Update at that point, so we were out to dinner. I said, remember that character? Why don't we move her into Weekend Update and have her do consumer reports the way, and there was a local WABC newscaster at the time named Roseanne Scamardella. I said, like Roseanne Scamardella, and Gilda, without a millisecond going by, she said, okay, but can we name her Rosanna-Dana? Yeah. And I said, how did you come up with that? And remember that song from the 60s, The Name Game, Johnny, Bonnie, Banana?
Yeah.
If you get to like the 6th verse, Rosanna-Dana is in there somewhere. And that became it. And the Richard Feder from Fort Lee, New Jersey is my brother-in-law. So it just became this thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And you had done no sketch writing before.
None. You want to hear another sperm bank joke? No, I got they're freezing sperm now, which is going to be a problem in the future because it's hard enough telling a kid he's been adopted. How do you tell him he's been defrosted? You see what I mean? Okay. So there were just jokes. I learned. I mean, when I walked in and I saw these two guys there, and saw Belushi, and saw Gilda doing what they did, I was totally I had never heard of Second City. I wasn't familiar with it. I wasn't familiar with the Groundlings. So they taught me that there's another way to write.
Well, speaking of the Groundlings, you helped found that group, right? Which is amazing, Lorraine. I mean, if you hadn't done anything besides that would have completely helped change comedy because people just keep coming out of there.
I know.
Year after year.
I know. You and John used to razz me so much. What's the name of that group you came from? The Groundhogs? But I'm really very delighted. And it's also, I still go see shows and I do the alumni shows. And I get to see these people develop. And then when they end up on Saturday Night Live, it's just like, my kid, you know?
Yeah.
But what I also noticed is like Second City had its own style and flavor. Groundlings had its own style and flavor. The Proposition, which is where Jane came from. Everybody, that's what was also, I think, contributed to how great the show was because we really got, it was like, well, I hate to use the word smorgasbord, but, you know, that's what it was. It was unlike a lot of variety shows that had come before that had kind of one thing, you know? This had many things.
Well, even I think Second City Chicago had a different tone than Second City Toronto. Am I right about that? That different sensibility.
Well, both of the Second City shows in Chicago and Toronto embraced the community, embraced the cities that they were working in, embraced their, you know, the cultural ethos of each city. You know, we were as hard-edged in Toronto as they were in Chicago. Lots of political humor. And we had the benefit of having Joe Flaherty with us and Brian Murray that summer. And then we switched, we came down in August 74, or in the summer of 74, we brought the Toronto company down to Chicago and they swapped with us and went back. So in August 74, Nixon resigned. So how perfect was that?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, now that I've got some time on my hands, I encourage you to come down to San Clemente Dodge Chrysler. You know, it was just so great to be able to be there the summer he resigned and to be able to do that. And then subsequently after that, of course, Frank and Davis wrote the famous piece where you know, they're praying in the
final days.
The final days, praying in the picture gallery, and I worked with a Secret Service guy. His name was Smokey Wendell, and he was our security guard for Blues Brothers, and he was there with Nixon during those days, and he said that was all on the MS true, that he saw Nixon drunk, he saw him praying, he saw him kneeling, and Smokey has a panda on his arm from when he went to China with Nixon, so he was one of his closest bodyguards at the time, and he witnessed the whole thing. He said that what you did, you guys, was totally accurate.
I think it's also like right away, Washington was paying attention to Saturday Night Live, and I don't think that's gone away since then that they see?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
They see how it plays every week.
It hasn't gone away. They're watching very closely, I think.
Yeah. And you did both Nixon, and then you later did Carter. And I thought what was interesting is you gave it to both of those guys. You know, I always thought that was interesting about SNL.
Yeah, well, Nixon was just, I mean, wow, what a Machiavellian character. What a wonderful caricature of a human being, you know, and Carter, yeah, we never had a political agenda to come on the side of any cause or another. We just depicted it for humor, you know, and try to make sure that people didn't, you know, they didn't get too full of themselves. We made sure of that.
Right away, you guys felt the show working. I mean, you brought up like Carlin in the first episode, but right away it felt to everybody on the show, this thing is starting to happen.
It felt just different. It was all of basically our first jobs, no matter what we did before. And I remember Lorne saying very early on, the only rule that we had was, he said, let's make each other laugh. And if we do that, we'll put that on television. And he assured us that there was an audience out there that wasn't being serviced this way in comedy, and they would tell their friends about it, and it worked. And I remember it was Lily Tomlin did the 6th show, and then Elliot Gould, the show that we won all those Emmys for the first year, was the 10th show. This thing started growing and gelling, and it took on a momentum of its own. And we went on, God, what a great ride it was, you know?
I knew when Chevy and I would, like by the 4th, 5th show, be walking down the street and hey, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, Chubby Cheers, hey Chubby, hey Chubby, hey Chubby. You know, and he was like, I knew then, boy, that's we're on our way, man. You know, we're on our way.
That happened to me and Gilda too after the slumber party sketch.
Sure.
People were yelling, "That's disgusting!" And I was like, what? You know, and then I figured it out.
But it is really rare that the popular thing is also the cool thing. You know what I mean? Like so many times you would see shows that were popular, but it was just like you and the Rolling Stones that were popular and cool at the same time. It was an amazing thing.
And Golden Girls, of course.
And Golden Girls, I forgot that one. Well, that was only in certain parts. But when that happened, when you guys became, and it was probably only by the 2nd and 3rd season, but the cast members were at least as popular as the host and the musical guest. That's when it had to start to really feel like some responsibility for you guys.
I remember at one point when the cast started becoming big stars in their own right, I overheard a conversation where it was a very brief discussion about the possibility of doing away with hosts, okay? The conversation didn't last. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And Lawrence felt that, well, you needed somebody to be a focal point, one person to make eye contact with the audience at home through the camera, and then we can do everything else around that person. But initially, I don't remember exactly how many. If you look at the first show, there wasn't that confidence, obviously. This was this was something new. George Carlin had about 4 monologues. You know, Andy Kaufman was on the show and he did Mighty Mouse or something. Valerie Bromfield was on the show. There were 2 musical guests. There was Janice Ian and Billy Preston. So it was a variety show. And then as the cast started gelling, going, okay, fine. This was reduced to 1 monologue and 1 song and all of that, you know?
We also started getting accountants in the 4th year. And I remember during rehearsal once, Gilda and Bill Murray and I were on the stage, and we were talking about what the names of our corporations were, you know? And at one point, Gilda said, "What's happening to us?"
But you couldn't help that, right? I mean, you really were in that position. There was always talk about, you know, Chevy being the first breakout guy because people knew his name. And then when he left the show so early, what was that feeling like for the rest of the cast?
I was sad to see Chevy go because I was a big fan of his work, and he was one of my great supporters. You know, he was always behind anything I was doing, and I loved working with him. His physical ability and his absurdity, and I was really genuinely sad when he left. You know, we all were. We were kind of bummed, but then we got to get Murray.
Yeah.
You know, and then
the new guy.
Yeah. And Murray, essentially, you know, we wanted Murray from the very beginning. It just there wasn't room, and he was doing other stuff. But then the next star to emerge was really Belushi. I think he was the one that Belushi and Gilda were the huge breakouts there, and after Chevy, yeah.
And what was the first of the returning sketches? When did they start to return characters?
If I'm not mistaken, it was the Samurai. Okay. Tom Chilla had written something called Samurai Hotel, okay, with Richard Pryor. And before I got the job at SNL, to supplement my great living I was making, getting $7 a joke, I was working at a delicatessen on Hillside Avenue in Queens. And Lorne came up to me, it was show number 11, and he said to me, you worked in a deli, right? And I went, yeah. He said, can you write Samurai Delicatessen? I went, oh, you bet. Then he leaves, and I'm going, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I going to do now? Okay. So to my memory, and then I did Samurai Deli, and then I did all the rest that came. Yeah. And there was certain hosts that we always required, pretty much, when Buck Henry came, because he was the most perfect stooge, you know? So we did about 9 or 10 more afterwards. But I think so, unless... Because the Coneheads came later, right?
Yeah, I think Coneheads, came later, but I guess that...
I think so.
Probably, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did the Conehead idea, because it's pretty bizarre.
I was sitting there one night, I was sitting in my loft one night, and I was looking at television, and I was just sitting there, and I'm thinking, you know, there's really a lot of unused space between here and... What if the people had taller heads? So I drew it up, and then we had this thing, well, we would be the pinhead lawyers of France. They would be the pinhead lawyers of France arguing a case, and they'd all come, 4 of them would come in, and, they'd touch the cones. And then Lorne said, well, I don't know about that. And, Davis and I think, I don't know, we were in on some of the first, it was Jane, me, Lorne, Rosie.
I don't know if you remember this, but in the very beginning, before we were on the air, Lorne thought it'd be a good idea for the cast to do improv at his loft.
Yeah.
To get to know one another, which is a great idea. I think we did it twice. And we were given the suggestion of an alien family.
And so we made
me and Jane.
We made the Coneheads.
And we came up with the voice right away,
Yeah, and I had drawn the sketch up, and that was it. So Davis and I, we ran with it after that, and then luckily that it was the Coneheads and not that other thing.
So, so in the back of your mind after these, was everybody thinking reoccurring characters? I need a reoccurring character?
I don't think it was a pressing issue, but we were mindful that if it was successful, it would happen again. I mean, there was the Loud family, and what was it? The family with the real big ass?
Whiteettes.
Yeah, the Whiteettes,
Yeah.
And then characters reoccurred, like, Roseanne and Dana, individual
Fred Garvin.
characters.
Fred Garvin.
Yeah.
Male prostitute.
Yeah.
I love that.
And Garrett Morris had Chico Escuela, So there were characters that sort of hooked on and go, okay, let's see it again.
As a matter of fact, I don't ever think I heard the name Nerds before those sketches came about. Was that name even?
I think it was in vernacular for school.
School stuff.
And that's another thing about the show that was so great is that we presented things that our audience, which were just about our age, recognized.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing. And, when people talk about Lorne, it's hard to believe how young he was putting this show together. You're not going to give a show to somebody that young now.
Well, like he said again, I'm not going to do it. You got to give me 7. You're not going to give me 1. He had quite a lot of experience. He'd been producing television in Canada years before, and I had met him in 1969 in the summer. We did a special together. That's how I knew him. And so he was writing as a teenager for Canadian television, and so he started really young.
And then he came and he did Laugh-In.
He did Laugh-In and Lily Tomlin special.
Yeah.
And he worked in Hollywood,
And then I think a Richard Pryor and a Monty Python.
I remember going to the Chateau Marmont. In my 1963 Chevy Biscayne, I drove across country with John DeVicus, my friend who went on to design all the stuff for Ghostbusters, the Stay Puft and all that, my good friend. And we drove across. We went to New Orleans, Tijuana, and then up to L.A. And Lauren let us crash in his room in the Chateau Marmont, and he said, you know, in the next year and a half or so, I want to bring back the Colgate-Palmolive Comedy Hour. I want to bring back live TV. And I said, well, you know, give me a call. I'll be there to help. And
Wow.
so he did call.
Wow.
And then maybe audition 9 times. But
Would the show have been as popular if it wasn't live, if you guys would have taken the time to kind of tape
it would have been Fridays,
Yeah.
which had some good talent come out of it, you know, but it's you know, you watch Fridays and you go, it's just, there's some great acts, some great talent and it just didn't, you know, it just didn't have the edge. It just didn't have the I don't know, the intelligence. It just wasn't us, you know, and I think because they were live to tape, that was a thing.
But there's something so exciting about live, that energy. I mean, it's just like doing improv. You know, the audience really, I think, is so receptive to that because they know how risky it is.
It's a high wire act.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
But what is that like as they're counting down? You know, you're a kid, you're in your early 20s, and they're counting down, and you're going to just head out there and spill into everybody's living rooms and bedrooms.
Well, I've always said that, you know, we all came from exactly that format. You do a character, you run off stage in the dark, you change, you come back in the dark, hit your mark, lights go up, and you go. We all came from shows that did that. You know, it was like we were bred for it.
Right. Well, what attracted you guys to improv first? You're young, you're in, you know, college age, and you're doing improv.
You know, I mean, it's just like any way to make a living without really working, you know. I think it was the reputation of Second City was so attractive because, you know, we had heard it was coming to Toronto, and we knew it from Chicago, the reputation of it, and it was really the history and legacy of how where it came out of that was attractive. You know, just intelligent writing, the idea that you could be a writer and a performer and a musician all in one little ball, and do that in one scene, and that they would help you with those skills. You know, it was great. It was, I sort of call it the collegiate of our training, and then Saturday Night Live was the PhD university, you know, program.
It's amazing how much the show is still structured in the same way. Now, you know, you have the guest host, you have the musical guests, you have the reoccurring guests coming on during the news. It hasn't really changed that much. Does anything stand out to you now that seems different?
There's 10 times as many writers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Boy, you got
And 20 times as many assistants. And half
wigs.
the studio capacity.
Lots of wigs.
And the studio seems smaller because
Yes.
there's more production going on. But Lorne Michaels is the only guy in the world that can sit in between dress and air and look at those cards and go, that ain't working. That's going to work. That'll be good. I'll put this. Nobody else helps him with that. And he takes about 8 minutes to do it and goes, that's the show. And there's only one guy on earth that can do that.
That's
and
absolutely
that's
right.
him.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just curious, how many people here tonight have ever been to an SNL taping, have ever been there in that studio? It is unbelievable when you just watch the crew of that. You can watch them building sets in the time of a commercial, and you sit there going, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it, over and over.
They're heroic. They
You
really
got-
are.
As a writer, okay, I write plays and books and movies now, and if I'm lucky, they see the light of day 2 years from now. Where else can you write something on Monday and it's on television on Saturday, Or, there's a dress rehearsal Saturday night, okay, and the whole show is done in full costume and everything. Then that audience leaves. Sketches are rewritten. Like Dan said, Lauren figures out what the show will be. It's pure genius. Okay, that's going to be the show. We rewrite the sketches, get them to cue cards. I would go upstairs, and because it wasn't 24/7 news at the time, it was just the 11 o'clock news. I'd go to my office and watch the news, and if something struck me as funny, I'd write a joke, and it was on TV a half hour later. Yeah. The 5 years I was with the show, there were 2 occasions while they were live doing Weekend Update on the air. I was under the desk writing jokes and handing them out.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is it's the kind of the Weekend Update belongs in like 8 or 10 other shows that they're doing, either
Colbert,
daily,
Daily Report,
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It really started it, it really did start that.
And now those writers have to think, did this get done on a different show?
I think they have a tougher time than we did because we were the only ones doing it, and it was the end of the week. By the time Saturday comes along, Colbert's done 5 shows, Conan's done 5 shows, Seth Meyers has done, all of them have done 5 shows. What's going to make them different, aside from the news that happened on Saturday that they hadn't done yet,
Yeah.
So I think they have a tougher task than we did in some ways.
But they all have their own writers. Again, Conan's writers are fantastic. Daily Show, Colbert, they all have their own voice. That's really, I think, what distinguishes our show, that it's consistently had an original, idiosyncratic style representing many people. And you can't even get on shows as a writer like Colbert and these others if you don't have that.
You know what was interesting, and this is kind of stays the same, when Chevy left the Weekend Update, when Dan and Jane came in, they were completely different. It was a completely different show. And that's why I think it survived. You know what I mean? That you did not, and they do that over and over with them.
Well, you get Al Franken, now that you had 2 people, Al Franken writes point, counterpoint, Jane ignorant and slut, and you needed 2 people for that, and you needed Franken to have that voice.
It wasn't my strength, that update. I never really fit in there because I think what was going on was I really wanted to be doing, I wanted to be doing sketches and writing. I didn't want to be the news guy. I knew, and looking at the people who are doing it now, look at Fallon who did it, and look at Seth Meyers, so much more fluid than I ever was, because my mind was distracted. I was on something else. I wanted to be in sketches. I wanted to be in character doing something else. So they removed me from that task. But what was great about SNL for the writers was we produced our own sketches. Lauren would say, go with it. And then it wouldn't be Lauren, the producer, talking to wigs or costumes or makeup or sets or design or models. It was us. If I was writing a piece, I'd have to survey it and make sure that surveil it all the way through that it made it through. Franken and Davis would be there, meticulously making sure that their pieces were done. The writers got to produce their pieces from the time they wrote them right until everybody was applauding on the air. It was total autonomy there. It still works that way today.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you guys look back, because you were so young when this happened, are there regrets or the things that you wish you would have appreciated more or not taken as seriously, whatever it happens to be?
Well, I don't know. I think we appreciated it pretty good, having the Stones there, and Paul McCartney, Paul Simon, and Linda Ronstadt. I booked that act. I booked Linda Ronstadt and Phoebe Snow. I said, you guys should come on and sing a song together. Wow. Can you get that? We'll get that together for you, no problem. I was fully cognizant of just what we were a part of, especially when the musical talents would walk in, Robbie Robertson, the band, the Grateful Dead, wow, what?
Yeah. We had Fran Tarkenton host the show, so I came in with a football. What was that? I gave Fran Tarkenton, I brought in a football because I wanted to tell people I caught a pass from Fran Tarkenton, and he threw me a pass, and I dropped it. Okay? And I say, please give me one more shot at this, because I can't get laid by saying I dropped the pass from Fran Tarkenton. It was great. But I think that given that it was our first jobs, I don't know how it is for you guys, but I didn't know that all of show business wasn't that way. So there was an immediacy, like I said, about writing a joke and seeing it on TV, or a sketch and it was on TV a couple of days later. The other stuff we did afterwards took a little time, you know. And what I missed was the rush.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
It's like we got a very unique box of crayons that you just couldn't get anywhere else.
And you didn't know that at the time. You thought this is whatever the
Nothing to
start.
compare it to.
Yeah. Well, it also seemed interesting, too, that almost immediately there were outside influences trying to pull the cast or the writers in different directions, because that also is what Hollywood and TV does all the time. Did you guys start to feel that pressure right off the bat?
No, I think it was when Animal House was produced. We saw, you know, that the West Coast would be calling for the talents, you know, and they got John, you know, to do it, and Lorne. I knew there was a piece in the New York Times, and I guess this is Landis that said this. I don't know. He said, "Oh, well, Lorne wouldn't let me do the Animal House." That's not true. Lorne's not a warden. You know, he said, "If you want to do it, you're free to go." But I looked at it and I thought, man, Chevy's gone, John's gone. If I leave to do Animal House, he'd be shorthanded, a writer and a performer. And I thought, I'm staying, you know. And I stayed because of that reason, and I'm glad I made my decision to stay, you know.
Yeah. Well, once Animal House happened, and it wasn't just a hit, but this enormous hit that was done in the same kind of comedy that all you guys had been working on for years, then I guess you think to yourself, what is this?
When I look back, that was probably some sort of demarcation, because here was John, who then got to be on the cover of Newsweek by himself. He didn't have you guys on either side of him. So then the culture of the show is almost like, oh, I see. Like, from this show, you can get a movie, you can get a TV show. And then there was studio executives who started hanging out in 8H. They would come in. Remember Sean Daniel from Universal and those people. So it was, Marilyn Miller had a show. I think it was Marilyn, or was it you? Her expression was, "Hey kids, let's put on a show." That's the way it was. That was the attitude. But now the attitude was a little bit different, you know, and it became a little bit more, it's not so much a means to an end. I don't want to trivialize it like that, but I think people were aware that, oh, there could be something else that comes from this.
And might I say that there were some certain elements of in show business that detected a lucre there for themselves.
And of course, all the cast that came after you realized that, and you guys at least had a couple of years of innocence, but every cast after you was thinking, do I get...
They used to have, I don't know if they still do, maybe you guys know, where if a host liked a certain writer, you can come be that host's writer that week. You can be a guest writer on the staff. So after we had left the show, I think I was a guest writer 3 times. Eddie Murphy had asked me, and Gary Shandling, who I created a series for, he asked me, and for whatever reason, when my good friend Jesse Jackson hosted, I was there. But this was like the 7 or 8 years after we left in 80, and the cast were great. There were John Lovitz and Dana Carvey and Phil Hartman. Oh, yeah. But I saw people, I would pass their offices, and they were reading Variety, and they were reading Wall Street Journal. So there was a business thing that we weren't aware of or cared about when we were there.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, you know, we're here as part of Lucy Fest, and I know I've talked to you about this, Alan, before, but you really expected Gilda to be kind of the next Lucy, and
it seemed natural given her physicality and her humor, and there were talks of creating a series for her. You know, that would be Lucy-esque, if you will.
Right.
She would be able to flex those muscles. But, you know, her career took a different direction. She did movies. She married Gene Wilder, did movies with him. And then she got sick, you know. The last performance she ever gave was on It's Gary Shandling's show, and she was very physical in it, and she got nominated for an Emmy Award as a guest performer. And it was like the shade of what could have been, but then, you know, she passed away.
You know, I talked about this before I brought you out, that it looks like you're taking Bunny Bunny back to Broadway now.
I hope so. It's not in my hands. It's, you know, if all goes well, yes. If not, it won't be, you know.
And that was a very kind of yes, of course. A very complicated relationship that you two had.
It was a platonic love affair. And it was not my idea to be platonic, okay? Yeah. But I said, okay, if this is the rules we got to play by, fine. But one of these days you'll open your eyes and see the glory that's sitting in front of you. And that lasted the 14 years that I knew her. She was my platonic buddy. And then when she got sick, I remember I went to Cedars-Sinai to give blood. And while I'm on the gurney, the nurse gave me a pad and a pen. And I said, what's this for? She said, well, Gilda likes to know whose blood she's getting. Can you write her something nice? She's having a tough time. So I wrote, Dear Gilda, I knew I'd get some fluid of mine into you one way or another.
Dan, of course, your great platonic love affair was John Belushi.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, we fell in love the minute we met. I remember he came to Second City to recruit for National Lampoon. He wanted to raid. He raided Gilda, and he wanted me to go, but I had that, as I say, those little things going on in Toronto, little side things and rackets. And I bought my motorcycle, which I'm giving to the museum.
Yes.
Yeah, that very bike. I bought that very bike. And then he walked in the back door of Second City one night, and it was a blizzard, you know, going, and the back door opened, and the snow swirled around him, and there he was in silhouette, and he had kind of an old driver's cap on, you know, and very underdressed. He had a scarf on and a cable knit sweater, and, you know, jeans and white sneakers, you know, not dressed for Canadian winter at all, and he just swirled in this, you know, this kind of, you know, magnetic whirlwind of snow and talent and charisma, and we, you know, that was the end there. That we cooked up the Blues Brothers that night. I mean, you know,
wow.
Back at the 505 Club, the club we went to, yeah. Wow. Yeah. First night we met, we had, and he, you know, I said, what's this music? You know, I said, well, this is just Downchild Blues Band, a local blues band, and he said, blues, oh, yeah, it sounds good. I said, well, John, you're from Chicago. I mean, you must know blues. I like grand funk and heavy metal and cream, and I'm into heavy, you know, he was into the punk. I said, well, you can teach me about that, and we'll go over the blues together. And by the time I got to New York, when I finally moved, he had 300 blues records, and he was picking songs for our first record.
Wow.
You know, yeah. And then we went to the Lone Star Cafe. Our first backup band was Willie Nelson. Yeah, so we brought the act to the show, and here, some 40 years later, at the House of Blues on August 28th, I have a performance with his brother. We call him Brother Z, and I'm out there in the Elwood persona, and that's like 40 plus years later, still doing it.
That's great.
Yeah.
We promised this audience that we would answer some questions from them as well. So I don't know.
You would ask them some questions? Or?
Thank you very much. By the way, have they not been amazing here tonight? All right. The first question is for Lorraine. What was it like working with Jane and Gilda? Because you three.
Well, we were kind of huddling in a corner, naked and shivering, being the only girls and sharing a dressing room for the first 4 years. And I loved them. I think we loved each other a lot and appreciated one another very much. It was very cooperative. I think when you come from an improv background, it's just much more supportive.
You wanted the others to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where stand-up comedy is just evil, terrible, dark-hearted people hoping their friends die on
Yes,
stage.
it's that black and white.
This was a question for each person. What was your personal breakthrough moment on SNL?
The Valley Girl was
Yes.
in the Godfather Group Therapy, which was the monologue I did at the Groundlings.
But you were the first person ever to bring that persona, I believe, to
You're
television.
welcome, and I'm sorry.
Dan, what about for you, a personal breakthrough?
I don't know. I think it was that first moment that I was, as I mentioned before, that first moment before going on stage, and then coming off after the sketch had gone well, and we got the laughs that we wanted, and we come off, and I realized, yeah, this could work. This could work. You know, it just yeah. It was that after that first sketch, yeah.
Alan, even though you had the success of a $7 joke writer, there had
Anyone
to be,
want to borrow any money? I got you.
there had to be that moment for you to see something done that was yours.
Well, yeah. Look, the first joke that I ever had on the show was that stamp joke that I did before. That was in the very first Weekend Update, and I heard an audience laugh. And there was a validation there, go, okay, maybe I can write more things that can make them laugh. And as I learned to write sketches, and we were doing a lot of commercial parodies at the time, and you got a certain amount of confidence from it. So,
What was the car commercial for what? What was
Briss?
What was the name of the car?
Royal Deluxe 2.
The Royal Deluxe 2, where the Moyle is in. So smooth. Even a Moyle can do his work and not, you know. So good.
So smooth.
And we used the name of my actual rabbi when I was growing up because he wouldn't let me go out with somebody who wasn't Jewish, and I knew I'd get back to him someday. So,
The next question, do you each have a Gilda story to share?
I remember Gilda was the only person that could really whip Belushi into shape and give him a sense of conscience, you know. And when he was kind of running, you know, over the other girls and kind of, you know, like dismissing their talent, and you know, but he did believe in their talent. He really believed in the talent of the three girls. But his way was sometimes to be dismissive about it and pejorative. And Gilda, you know, was able to kind of, you know, bring him back and make him realize that those convictions were wrong. She had a lot of power over John because he respected and loved her, and he respected her talent, and he respected her as an equal.
And you had just brought up to me, Alan, that it's almost 30 years that Gilda's been gone. That is hard to believe. It really is.
it's amazing, and it's amazing to all of us because she still lives. You know what I mean? Her spirit is still there. And people watch her show, you know, our shows, and you know, there's a documentary called Love Gilda, which is about her, that opened the Tribeca Film Festival a couple of months ago. And I just think that she was one of those rare personalities that people felt that they knew her, even if they never met her, you know? So it's really quite remarkable. John was that way too. Belushi was that way too. I think people felt a huge sense of loss when John died.
Yeah, and he was cute. I don't think he liked that, but he was cute.
Belushi, yeah. The Tasmanian Devil.
Pigpen.
He had a body like the Tasmanian Devil, long torso, short legs, and he could move like the Tasmanian Devil. And boy, could he move, man. He could move. I mean, you saw him dance in those movies.
Yeah, there's never been a front man in a band with that shape in any other band.
No.
This was for you, Dan. The refrigerator repair guy. Did you plan on showing the butt crack?
Well, of course, that was written into the piece, as you know, refrigerator repairman comes in, and it was basically, you know, something that I got doing in someone's living room as a joke one time, and so we brought it to the show, and everybody knew it was going to be revealed, but what the censor had a problem with the pencil.
He said, if you put that pencil there, I'm going to cut to black so quick you can't even believe it. So Davis was ready with a shot of whiskey. His name was Jay. Remember Jay?
Jay Otley.
Jay Otley. And Jay liked to have a drink now and again. So on the moment that I was to take the pencil out behind my ear and place it, if I placed it there, Davis slid over the whiskey. Jay, have a shot, have a shot. And Jay looked away and had the shot and missed the... He went like this, and no, too late. You put that pencil, he was so mad at me.
I mean, it sounds so tame now, given what's on TV.
Sure.
But back then, do you remember we had a sense of Jane Crowley?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, 300 pounds, ex-nun, dress shields, you know who I'm talking about. She would sit in the control room reading the script during dress rehearsal. This was her last shot to censor us because we go on the air live. And I remember once Michael O'Donoghue called me up and said, Alan, for Weekend Update, what if we did a product, it was brought to you by a product that we made up? So I said, go for it. So this one particular week, O'Donoghue had Don Pardo say, and now Weekend Update brought to you by Pussy Whip. The dessert topping for cats, okay? And it worked great. So the next week I wanted to do one. So during dress rehearsal, I had Don Pardo say, and now Weekend Update brought to you by Blue Balls, B-L-E-U, Blue Balls, the cheese snack from France. Everyone loved it. We're going to do it on the air except one person. The door of the control room opens. Out waddles Jane Crowley. She comes up to me and says, Alan, you can't do that when you go on the air. I said, can't do what? She said, you can't do blue balls. You can't say blue balls. And I said, why? And she says, because it has to do, with the male genitalia. And I said, Jane, last week, you let us say pussy whip, which is clearly the female genitalia. But now this week, what kind of sexist organization are you running here? She goes back to the control room, picks up a phone, calls God, I guess. 10 minutes later, she comes waddling out, and she says to me, Alan, I thought about it. And because I gave you pussy whip last week, I'll be more than happy to give you... And I remember saying, that's not necessary. Just let us say it on television. We'll call it even,
Oh, wow.
It's like you were living in a movie while you were doing a TV show, right? I mean, this had all the plots of a major comedy all the time.
Yeah, but you look at, I meant to mention, as a writer, we'd go in to read through, and there's a natural kind of, sort of a competition. I'd listen to the other writers, what they wrote, and go, gee, I should have thought of that. Oh, damn, I missed that one. But when this guy wrote something, I knew it was nothing that I could ever think of. If I live to be 1,000, there's no way I can write Bassomatic where you drink a fish. Okay? So I just sat back and enjoyed the ride,
Yeah. And that is the great thing about comedy is like you don't have to have anything in common or a political belief that you agree with or it can still make you laugh no matter what it is. And I don't know how any other art form where, you see like the country artists go, but I also like ballet. It just doesn't exist the way it does in comedy. All right, here's another question.
Real personal.
Yeah.
It's very
what sketch was the biggest surprise to you in terms how the audience reacted, whether that was good or bad?
This was a surprise because what happened was a surprise, but there's a famous underground tape called the Trogs tape. And there was this band, the Trogs, that came out with a song called Wild Thing. And then the next thing that they tried to do, or the sound guy recorded their bickering in the recording studio. And so they wrote a sketch based on this thing, setting it in medieval times. Danny and John had already left the show, but John came back as the queen. And Paul Schaefer said the F word on TV. And I remember running into the control room, which was like an oil painting. That was a surprise.
I think the when Steve Martin and I did the Czech Brothers, that just exploded. Yeah, that just wow. Yeah, that reaction was big. We didn't know it'd be that big. Yeah, and you know, Garrett was so good in that, man. He was so great. Yeah.
That was also amazing that Steve's rise was at the same point of the show. And of course, once you had that show with, you know, the Blues Brothers and Steve Martin and all, it just felt like you were running everything in popular culture by that weekend. I don't think that we have, even as big as the show is now, nothing has everyone watching it. But I think your show had everybody from teenagers to at least people in their mid-30s sharing that experience.
Yeah, I don't think people stay home on Saturday night to watch it anymore because they watch it on YouTube now. So
right.
But people were staying home. They wouldn't go to parties. They would shut parties down.
Yeah.
Right, but now it's all every time, all the while. So, you know, there's no appointment television anymore, and they can just see it anytime they want. But you have certain artists like Steve Martin, Melissa McCarthy, Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, they are essentially cast members of SNL.
Yeah.
You know, because they've done so much of the work with us and with you know.
All right, here's another question from the audience. Do you have a favorite non-recurring character from SNL?
Did you do Fred Garvin more than once?
I did Fred Garvin a couple of times.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I love that character.
That non-recurring. Well, I remember we did this scene, Dave Mabel's Danger Probe, you know, and it was two Belgian fops at a bar, a biker bar or something, and after the sketch, Donahue came up to me and Davis and said, "That was the single worst piece of writing I've ever seen." Ever. So he shot us down, and we never did Dave Mabel's Danger Probe again.
I had a piece that I had great hopes for called the Walker Brigade. Now, this was, I had thought that during World War II, there was this brigade.
Elite.
Yeah, that's elite, who found a loophole in the Geneva Convention that you can't shoot at a soldier who's using an ambulatory device. So Jim Signorelli, we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to where there's an army base there. It's 6 o'clock in the morning, and we had all these actual soldiers, you know, sludging through the water, you know, with walkers, jumping out of a plane with walkers, okay? That big boat would come, and the door would come, and they'd come off with walkers. And I'm going, wow, this is the greatest thing in the world. Not one laugh. Because I thought the walker, oh, God, I'll be coming to Fort Dix a lot, I guess. No, never.
Anything for you, Lorraine?
In Update once, I played Sid Vicious's mother with Brian Doyle Murray next to me, looking like he was in shock, saying, "He's a really good boy, you know. This was an accident with Nancy. It's a complete accident. He's not like that at all, you know." And I love doing that character, but it died a rat's death.
Yeah.
No laughs.
But isn't it funny how you just trust that audience, that in-studio audience, to be all of America? You know, like, we don't know if people were laughing like hell at home at that, but
that's how it was in the beginning. We had no idea if we were being watched, if anybody liked us.
If there was a UCLA basketball game that ran to overtime, we would go on sometimes at 11:45 or even midnight. So we had no idea.
But by the second year, you guys were pretty sure that things were
Well, I think what happened was we won a bunch of Emmys the end of the first year. The Emmys used to be in May. So we went out there to California, and it was a primetime audience that saw this show that they never heard of, winning all these awards. So I think that that's what helped in terms of moving it into the consciousness of the audience of America.
And then you had big movie stars coming to do the show. Sissy Spacek. This was the vehicle to help open their movies, to help open their records. It became the currency to a mainstream audience by people who had basically product to sell. And we served them well. We opened a lot of movies for people and opened a lot and sold a lot of records.
You got guys like Leon Redbone, if you remember.
Yeah.
No one heard of him, came on the show and he exploded,
Well, not only were you able to do that, but you're also throwing the best party in the country every weekend at the Blues Bar after. So suddenly people that weren't doing the show that week would show up just to hang out with you guys. So
we'd have the main party at a restaurant or something, and then I would race down and whatever on the motorcycle, usually even in the winter, and I'd race down and throw open the armor and open this hole that we had at the corner of Hudson and Dominic with an open sewer. I mean, it was open.
Yeah, it's
open,
like that scene in Train Spotting, the dirtiest.
Yeah, that's about
This was dirtier.
It was, yeah. But I always had fresh roses on the bar and lots to drink and lots to eat and everything. And I remember one night we had Francis Ford Coppola attending bar. David Bowie was jamming with ZZ Top. And, it was a great, and the limos would be lined out upside this old longshoreman's bar downtown. And, why there in this place? Well, some of the most creative people in the world were gathering there every Saturday. Yeah. Yeah,
it was a real center of the arts universe, and that was
we had a great jukebox and we had acts we had drums and guitars and amps, so people would jam I remember who?
The Stink Band.
Yeah, Stink Band, Keith Richards hanging there, and I would routinely close the place at 10:30 in the morning. I'd be the last one there, and I'd shut and lock the armor, and that was it.
That's a bad moment when you go in at night and the sun is up the next day.
Yeah.
Icky.
See everybody coming home from church. I got to tell you guys, this was an amazing, amazing night to hear these stories, and I thank you for sharing them with us.
Thank you.
What a place to be. Alan Zweibel, Lorraine Newman, and Dan Aykroyd. What a night. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks a lot. Great going,
That was great.
That was terrific.